Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. Please be seated. We trust that while you've been waiting, you've had a moment to enjoy our acknowledgement to our friends and neighbors in the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam, and enjoy their beautiful art. We're going to start today with I'll call the meeting to order, and we'll call for a public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor Sager. Council is convening this public hearing to consider and receive submissions regarding proposed official community plan bylaw number 4985/2018, amendment bylaw number 5394/2026, and proposed zoning bylaw number 4662/2010, amendment bylaw number 5395/2026 for the addresses 6085 and 6093 Marine Drive. A public meeting will be held concurrently with a public hearing to receive submissions regarding proposed development permit 25-012 for the same addresses. Anyone who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaws and the proposed development permit will be heard and or may provide a written submission either in person or via email to correspondence@westvancouver.ca. No one will be discouraged or prevented from making their views heard. Council members may ask questions of you following your presentation, but council's function during this public hearing is to listen to the views of the public, not to debate the proposed bylaws and proposed development permit. After the public hearing and concurrent public meeting has concluded, council may, without further notice, give whatever effect council believes proper to the representations. Your only opportunity to comment on the proposed bylaws is during this public hearing. Council is not permitted to receive further submissions once council has closed the public hearing. Council has received documents which are available for the public to view. A hard copy of these may be obtained from the corporate officer during the public hearing and concurrent public meeting. These documents can also be viewed online at westvancouver.ca/news/notices. Please note that the publicly available copies of the documents do not include items received after noon today. To maintain order and to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to be heard, here are the rules of procedure. A speakers list has been established. For those attending in person, you may place your name on the list at any time throughout the public hearing. If you are speaking from prepared remarks, council requests that a copy be provided to the corporate officer. To participate via Zoom, please phone 604-925-7004 and provide your name and telephone number to staff, who will then add you to the speakers list. When it is your turn to address council, staff will allow you to unmute your microphone and turn on your webcam in order to provide you with your public input opportunity. Please note that staff are not in a position to provide you with a specific time slot when you register to speak. So we ask that participants who wish to address council be available for the duration of the public hearing and concurrent public meeting. Council requests that you please begin your remarks by providing your name and municipality of residence. If you're speaking on behalf of some other person or organization, council requests that you please identify the name of that person or organization. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes. And to the subject of the proposed bylaws and proposed development permit, please be respectful to others. After everyone has spoken once, you will have an opportunity to speak subsequent times to provide additional information if you wish. Please follow the process outlined a moment ago to be re-added to the speakers list. If you have any concerns about the rules of the hearing, please address your comments to the chair. Mayor Sager, I will just note before handing it over to staff for the presentation that there has been one staff report in this matter. As of 4 p.m., we have 35 written submissions. The most recent are on table for you to view. Council set the date for this public hearing on January 26th of this year, and the statutory notices of the public hearing were published in the North Shore News on February 11 and 18. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Ms. McGuire, thanks for giving us the presentation.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the public. I'll just share the presentation. So I just have a short presentation just providing an overview of the application, and then the applicant also has a presentation for council as well. So for consideration at tonight's public hearing is a proposed townhouse development for 6085 and 6093 Marine Drive. Oh, sorry. You can see the site on the map on the screen there. So it includes 2 parcels. It is owned by TELUS, and they're partnering with Ledcor for the proposed development. The site includes a decommissioned TELUS building and is located in the Glen Eagles neighborhood. The site has to the north of it a district parking lot that provides access to the Seaview Walk Spirit Trail, which is directly to the east of the site. And then directly to the south are existing single family properties on Marine Drive. And then directly across Marine Drive to the west is the Glen Eagles Golf Course and also single family homes. Current access to the site is from the adjacent district parking lot. The site is steeply sloped up to the trail edge, and a majority of the lot is dominated by mature conifer trees, along with numerous invasive plants on the site as well. There's also directly in front of the site a bus stop that provides access for the 250 bus that provides westbound service to Horseshoe Bay. So I'm not going to go into detail on the design of the proposal, as I understand the applicant will cover that in their presentation. So I'll just give a pretty brief summary and talk about the relevant policy and public engagement for the project. So the project is a 12-unit, 3-story townhouse project with a floor area ratio or FAR of 0.7. There is below grade parking proposed with 2 parking stalls per unit. As well, there is surface visitor parking, 4 spaces for that. And the building design materials and articulation have been brought forward in response to the forested surrounding area. And as I said, the applicant will speak more to that. We did review the proposal with a third-party financial consultant. They looked at the proposal and based on the relatively low density and the project cost, there is no applicable cash community amenity contribution in this case. However, it is worth noting that there would be improvements that would be delivered by the applicant if council is to approve the project. So that includes new frontage works, including a new sidewalk, formalized and accessible bus stop that doesn't exist today on the site, as well as invasive species removal on the adjacent trail area. So just in terms of relevant policy, the project's being brought forward under OCP policy that you can see here on the screen that allows consideration of missing middle housing projects on appropriate sites with sites close to things like transit, recreational facilities, and park facilities like this site does have. Also, there's these 2 criteria that we look at when we're looking at these kinds of projects, including compatibility with surrounding neighborhood context and character, and enabling a range of housing types. And just continuing with the policy assessment, in our opinion and staff's opinion, this project is responsive to that policy direction and is consistent with that policy direction. As well, for this project, what's also proposed is an administrative amendment to add the site into the development permit area for the OCP. And so we've reviewed it against those relevant development permit guidelines for ground-oriented housing, and staff's opinion is consistent with those. And more generally, the project is supported by council's strategic objective to expand a diverse housing supply. And finally, the project, in staff's opinion, provides a suitable missing middle development within the Glen Eagles community that is close to the community center, the Seaview Walk Trail, and is supported by transit. The planning committee did review the project in April of last year and provided a recommendation of support with specific design comments that were addressed by a revised proposal from the applicant. That included minor design adjustments to the project, including roofline adjustments, as well as confirmation that the quality of the materials would be secured by the development permit if it was approved by council. In terms of public consultation, the applicant hosted 2 neighborhood meetings, one before they submitted the formal application in 2024, and then more recently on May of last year. And based on the report from the applicant that they provided, feedback from the meeting was generally supportive, with only one written response expressing any concern. There has obviously, maybe I should just acknowledge that of the correspondence that council has received, it has been mixed in terms of raising concerns about the project as well as providing support for the project. And staff are happy to answer any questions related to those. But just to conclude, subject to tonight's public hearing and input provided by the public, staff's recommendation is that the application be given 2nd and 3rd readings. So if council did that, then prior to adoption of the proposed amending bylaws and approval of the development permit, I should just note that there would be conditions that would require satisfaction. So that would include Ministry of Transportation and Transit's approval of the zoning bylaw, registration of a development covenant to secure works related to the development in terms of servicing, and then confirmation of appropriate utility servicing. So that's it for me. As I said, the applicant does have a presentation as well, but happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. Any questions from members of council? Thank you, Ms. McGuire. And the applicant who will be addressing. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having us. Just get our presentations. Is it on here somewhere?
And I do appreciate you've been before council before, but I'd
Yes.
be grateful for a reintroduction for everyone's benefit.
Just the drawings. Okay.
I don't know which one here.
Thanks very much. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Elise Spearing. I'm a Senior Development Manager with LPI Management is the legal entity on the project, but we are Ledcor Properties, the partner of TELUS, the owner on the site. And with me today is Greg Borowski, a principal at Merrick Architecture.
Good evening. Good evening.
So actually, I'll just make this full screen before I get started. There we go. So we're pleased to have the opportunity to present again today and address some of the comments that were made at first reading. We are happy to hear openness towards this form of development here, but we did realize our presentation fell a bit short in terms of representing the thoughtful design that Merrick Architecture has put together. So today, we're here to do it justice. We selected Merrick Studio for a very good reason, and certainly not because they had an exact project precedent that we wanted to copy paste here, but quite the opposite. Their studio excels at contextual design or designing in response to its context, and they have a reputation for architectural excellence. And we knew that would be important to West Vancouver. The generally positive nature of our public engagement to date is a testament to the quality of their design, including the pre-app and post-app information meetings and one-on-one meetings with many of our neighbors. So while we'll repeat some of the original content, we will also dive a little deeper today into the design and how this building will really look and feel. So the first thing I did after first reading was get in the car, drive some laps around Glen Eagles and Marine Drive, take a walk down Seaview Trail. And I came away refreshed on the inspiration behind our design and resolved to do a better job at sharing it here today. West Vancouver's charm lies in its unique balance between natural beauty and refined living. We've always been convinced that this sense of place, which makes West Van unlike anywhere else in the world, is shaped by the layers of forest and landscaping that weave around and between the built forms. The green in between, as we've come to call it. And there are spectacular homes and a huge range of quality architecture throughout the district. And this too is very important to its well-established character, but it's the harmony between the two that make West Van truly special. And that is the character we've aspired to reflect with our proposal to make sure it fits into the neighborhood and contributes meaningfully. So I'll hand it over to Greg in just a second to dive into exactly how we've done that. But first, just a quick refresher on the site context. The property is on Marine Drive, just south of Eagle Ridge Drive in the heart of Glen Eagles. It's right beside a trailhead parking lot to the Seaview Walk, a 5-minute walk to the Glen Eagles Golf Course and Clubhouse, and a 15-minute walk to the elementary school. And there are bus stops in both directions right in front of the site. This is precisely the kind of site where the West Vancouver OCP calls for gentle densification and housing diversity. The existing site uses a TELUS building that they're in the process of decommissioning, along with the associated parking lot on site. We've got the Seaview Trail Greenway to the east, trailhead parking to the north, and Marine Drive to the west. So with that, I will hand it over to Greg to take us through their design process and details of our proposal. So over to you, Greg.
Thank you, Elise. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize maybe before we talk about the details, the importance of the design of this site to us and generally our approach. I'm formerly chair of Vancouver's Urban Design Panel and of UBC's Design Review Committee, and was responsible for delivery of the Sewell's Landing project in Horseshoe Bay. So this project, I think, the attention to the detail of it is extremely important to us. It's our brand too. And so I want to start by emphasizing that ours is a team that you can count on to deliver a quality project. So with respect to the site, we have a series of diagrams, just 5, don't worry. The first of which demonstrates the location of existing utility building and the parking area around it. Obviously, we're going to use that area for the new project, in addition to some of the balance of the site. I don't know how we click to the next slide there. Okay, so we took a look firstly at where the potential for a new building occurred, and obviously important to that was the preservation of mature existing trees. So to the south of the site, adjoining, that's to the right of the image, by the way, we adjoin a neighboring house. So those trees there were deemed to be very much worthy of retention. Also, the 2 trees to the left of the image that you see that adjoin the parking lot of the Seaview Trail. The other thing is the setbacks with respect to the Marine Drive side as well as the rear of the site. So we wanted to make sure there's breathing room around the site to be able to capture this building in nature concept. There we go. Okay, I can do that from now on. The other aspect is basically shifting the geometry of the building, creating a family of buildings rather than one large building. I think it's important, given the context of single family houses around, that this soft densification idea, a way to allow a building or a series of buildings that are clustered rather than a single building at once to be able to sit happily on the site. And also then those series of blocks that are kind of shifted to also be divided into 2. So we create a kind of happy a series of townhomes that don't look like a single large building. Then individually to break down the mass and introduce the character further by the roofscape and the balconies and so forth, and basically sculpt the forms so that we have more of almost a little village rather than one large project. Also important to that is the location of the driveway to the site. So we see to the right of the image there, maybe talk about it in the context of the green too, that all of the parking is concealed. So even when you drive off Marine Drive, you don't see a yawning gateway to a parking garage. The garage is cleverly hidden behind the townhouses in the depth of the site as it's kind of embedded into the site. But most importantly, the idea of a family of houses in the green and a kind of layering. So firstly, a layering of landscape to Marine Drive is the first thing you see, because you see the project obliquely typically as you drive along Marine Drive from the south or from the north. But not only that screening of trees and then the buildings, but further to the back of the site to another layer of trees between us and the Seaview Trail. And I think Elise or perhaps Michelle mentioned the invasive species management and so forth on the site. So from the site plan, we can see that driveway that I just mentioned to the right, which is actually to the south. And we also see some visitor parking. So there's not a technical requirement for visitor parking, but we're providing 4 visitor parking spaces conveniently, so we don't bother the rest of the neighborhood with visitors parking. But also introduce a bus stop and sidewalk along Marine Drive. The first time I visited the site, I was nearly run over by a bus because there's no sidewalk there. So introducing this actually formal bus stop and sidewalk is going to help make this a lot safer and also provide a nice frontage to access the townhouses. You can see that the landscape also extends beyond the front of the townhouses. So although we have a reasonably generous setback to the townhouses on property, there's also landscaping that extends up to the sidewalk. So it makes quite a deep green frontage. We have 12 townhomes, average around 1,900 square feet. They typically have 3 bedrooms, so these are really owner-occupied type of residences. We talked about missing middle and or soft densification. That's really the idea here. We hope we might be able to do more of this kind of project because it seems a really important initiative to introduce stuff in a soft way to enable more people to live in the neighborhood, but do it nicely. There are 2 parking stalls per unit, and again, those are concealed underground behind the townhouses via the driveway that you see to the right. You basically take a left in underneath the townhouses. There are dens, of course, at the ground floor of these as well. The principles of the project were provide strategic and impactful tree retention. We talked already about those clusters to the south and to the north of the site. Conceal those utilitarian functions like the parking that I just mentioned, including the access to the parking, and enhance and activate the streetscape. Very important because of the nature of the streetscape right now, where we don't have the sidewalk and we don't have the nice kind of front yards that we're proposing, along with sitting the townhouses relatively lower to the street. So right now the bunker sits at a high elevation and able to bring kind of life and activity slightly lower to the street, making it family friendly. And you can see from the layers of landscape at the front and the back that the intent is to really create a nice layering of landscape. In the section you see at the ground floor towards Marine Drive is just to the left of the building. So you can see there's a den actually at the lower floor, and you can see where the parking is concealed behind. The main living level is level 2 that adjoins also a garden area at the back. At level 3, you have 3 nice large bedrooms. With respect to the relationship with the neighbors, we see generally the neighbors are sitting on the far side of the sea view trail. So they're sitting at quite a high elevation above us. So it's relatively minimal impact from above. And also we've kept, in fact, lowered the roof line slightly to improve views over from the sea view trail over the site. And of course, the neighbors to the left that you see are at a lower elevation, some of them with a fairly large hedge in front. We spent some time chatting with some of those neighbors, and I think Ledcor and TELUS have done a good job engaging with those neighbors. We've been through lots of neighborhood consultation processes. I think it's a very thoughtful and honest, I think, dialogue with them. And as we look up close, we can see the relationship between those backyards and the forest. The living rooms at the second level flow through to those backyards, as well as to nice big balconies on the front. And you see even at the center of the site, there's a stairwell skylight. So lights brought into the middle of those units to provide a nice experience as you come up the stairs. Sustainability, another important function. We're going to be pursuing step code 4 and also number 3 on the carbon performance scale. So this is going to be a very energy efficient and sustainable project. It's a lot of it through really just passive design, improved envelope, preservation of trees, obviously, management of those invasive species, obviously highly efficient appliances and water flow and those type of things. As we see the streetscape from Marine Drive, I think it's a pretty realistic representation from the drive that you see these buildings kind of obliquely, but you also perceive that layering. So between the sidewalk and the bus stop, those front yards, those low stone walls, so these are going to be dry stack granite walls. So there's a beautiful quality right up front. And you see that kind of family of roof lines. So there is a kind of village maybe of townhouses here. But you also see the return of those roofs, the underside of it, the wood. So you may have noticed on project like Sewell's Landing, we introduce always wood under the soffits to enrich the experience when you look to the buildings from below. But generally also a kind of experience of wood and quality materials as you walk along. Nice, little walkways to the front doors. And even to the left, you'll see that it's a little bit like a walkway in the forest that takes you to the unit that's the northernmost. The materials and colors, we wanted to take colors that would be harmonious with the forest, the color of the bark of the forest, the color of the leaves and of the pine needles and so forth, the forest. So we'd create not only the layer of trees in front. So it's kind of a double layer of trees in front, including things like Japanese maple. There'll be a nice color change over the seasons as you come along Marine Drive, which you don't actually get right now, not on this site anyway. And the palette of materials, you see those colors I talked about, the bark and the leaves, but also around the windows, we have a wood surround and also those wood battens around the entrances. The roofscape is inspired a little bit by a project up in Roberts Creek. So speaking of the West Coast, and it has nice skyline of zinc color roofs, similar to what we did actually in Horseshoe Bay at Sewell's Landing. So I think those that color has been, I think, quite harmoniously integrated. And of course, the wood to the underside of those soffits that I mentioned. Most importantly, I think the experience up close and personal, as you come to the front door, what you see is a neighborly interface. You have people maybe take off your shoes after you've gone for a walk before you go home, or you unleash the dog, but there's a little stoop in front of the building and in front of each of the townhouses. And you see also those battens. So those wood battens kind of enrich and provide some layering to the front of the units. And you also see these nice kind of shroud surrounds to the windows, which give it a kind of contemporary feel while being harmonious with the landscape. Of course, the steps, the dry stack granite walls that we talked about, basically an impression of quality right away. The numbers of the houses, the lights to the houses, all of those things that speak to kind of personality and individuality of the units. Community benefits, maybe I will turn back to Elise. Thanks very much.
So just to put a bow on it, our proposal offers these key things: the right homes in the right place. So alternative options to detached homes in a super family-friendly neighborhood that will be more attainable from a price point perspective without sacrificing on quality or livability. Protection, restoration, and revegetation of the adjacent Seaview Walk Forest. High performance construction through sustainable design, and bike and pedestrian and car friendly street upgrades on Marine Drive. And perhaps most importantly, all of these benefits will be delivered in a thoughtfully designed package from Merrick's office that Ledcor is going to be proud to build here, to build it well and respectfully of the community. So thank you very much, Mayor and Council, and we look forward to answering any questions.
Thanks very much. Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you. And thank you for your presentation. I'm actually quite surprised at this very moment because up until this afternoon, I'd heard very little negative feedback on this project. In fact, the one person who contacted me, I put them in touch with you and they returned an email saying they were satisfied with that you had addressed their concerns. But late this afternoon while we were in meetings, I had a pile of about 24 emails put on my lap, and most.
How many?
2,000? 24.
2 dozen.
Okay, let's go with 2,000 for impact. So I know you've done a lot of public engagement, and I know you've been receiving a lot of calls. So my questions to you are about questions that may have come up in your public engagement that weren't shared with us. So just a quick view of these letters. I'm hearing concerns around speed control and safety, and I think you addressed the sidewalk being a safer solution there. And I'll just give you the few points, and then maybe you can speak to them of how you've addressed them with the public. The traffic disruption during construction. And I think what's happening around there is there's been a big water main project on Glen Eagles Drive that's been quite disruptive for a very long time. So I'm just wondering if you're sharing your expectations around construction disruption. I don't think there's anything you can do about this one, but they're concerned about people using Seaview parking lot as a secondary home parking lot. And then have you had any pushback on the bus stop placed right in front of the homes? And I will point out that nobody identified, at least in opposition, live right across the street or behind you. So they're not directly affected by the project. It seems to be people in the area who pass through the area. So maybe you could tell us a little bit more about your public engagement.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson, please.
Absolutely. Through the mayor to Councillor Thompson. We had a similar experience today in receiving the package of letters. Thank goodness it wasn't 2000. Did have a few hours to leaf through them. And a lot of the comments we saw in them did remind me of questions that we received in person during our public information meetings. And we're able to chat with people about. And I do feel like in those conversations with the folks we were able to speak to, I think the formal receipt of comments ended up being quite positive, because once we were able to chat with people in person, they're really able to understand how we were dealing with a lot of these concerns. So I think that's kind of why it's been quite positive to date. And so maybe some of these folks who wrote in today didn't attend our meetings, so didn't have a chance to chat with us about it yet. So to the questions you raised, I'm just going to bring the site plan back up here for reference. So starting with safety along Marine Drive, I believe was the first one you mentioned. I believe the main concern from the comments I've read is the driveway access point, its location, and adding traffic to Marine Drive. So a couple things I wanted to note. We did have a traffic engineer on the project. They worked with us extensively on locating that driveway point. The main considerations for it were the distance from the bus lay-by. There's a very specific distance you need to be set back from where the curb starts to bend in for the bus. So we met that condition. There are conditions for separations from driveways, both on the same side of the street and across, for safety of turning movements. Those were satisfied. And then the big one, which I think a lot of people think about, is sight distances from traveling in both directions. So very importantly, when we did that assessment for the report, it was based on 50 kilometers an hour, not the posted 30. Typically, with those reports, you work with posted traffic speeds, but we've certainly heard that people drive a little faster along Marine Drive. So not only meeting those distances, which they assess based on grades as well, there's a bit of slope in the area, and ensuring our site design does not add any limiting to that site, to those sites in either direction for someone coming in and out of that driveway. So it was very carefully located, and but they also noted, just on the safety note, that the Marine Drive and Eagle Ridge intersection is operating well below capacity as it is now. Our project is expected at peak hours to add 1 vehicle every 10 minutes, which is very low impact and would not compromise the use of that intersection. So that was safety. Item number 2 was, if you might help me.
Item number 2.
Traffic disruption during construction.
Yes, thank you very much. So I saw those comments as well. Just for information, this project we expect to take about 18 months to build, 1.5 years, which I think is faster than perhaps some folks might be expecting. We do have 1 level of parkade, but it's otherwise wood frame above that, which is on the faster side to build and relatively low density. And the great news about our site layout is this area on the right-hand side with our driveway and the visitor parking. That area is at grade, so it's essentially going to be available to us at all times throughout the process as like an on-site staging area in terms of material storage and facilitating a lot of deliveries. That should really help us to contain construction activity on site. The main thing that that there will be some disruption along Marine Drive is, of course, when they have to build the street frontage. So adding in the sidewalk, the bus pull-out bay, and doing a bit of servicing works below grade. That is the main part that could lead to some road closures. Expecting that process, because it's, again, not super complicated, not super big, about 6 weeks or 1.5 months, not of constant road closures in that time. That's just the main time frame where there would be impact. And overall, we will have a traffic management plan. So that gets prepared during the building permit process. It's very clear and detailed about how we are going to load the site. It'll be respectful of all West Vancouver bylaws, noise bylaws. There's bylaws about where trucks cannot and cannot drive through the district. So all that will be taken into account. There will be parking restrictions clearly mapped out for any and all trades, contractors, etc., that come to the site. So that's how we would plan to manage it. You know, we've got a local architect, we've got a local builder here who also want to be proud and do right by the community. The one thing we always do, which is not necessarily bylaw mandated, is we would have a designated liaison on our team, who everyone in the surrounding area would have their contact information, direct point of contact to deal with any concerns about anything that's going on at site.
Okay, well, I think you've encapsulated a lot of the questions within those two answers. So I'll leave it open to my colleagues to pursue some more.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Cassidy, please.
Well, I have a few comments to make, well, actually mainly questions. So the bus stop, which is basically in front of, I would say, well, in the middle of the building, who would want to buy a property with a bus stop immediately in front of it with all that spewing of that which comes out of a bus, exhaust, etc. And also, so I should recommend that you move the bus stop to basically just to the east, but sort of diagonally across the street from the current bus stop, which is going west. You move diagonally across the street. So anybody who chooses to get on and off the bus there also has the convenience of access to Glen Eagles, the community center there. And secondly, you're not getting all these individuals in front of your townhouse. So I think it's a really inappropriate place for a bus station. That's just me. And also your bedrooms are to the front, am I correct?
The bedrooms would be in both directions.
Okay, so but your master bedroom is to the front.
It actually alternates.
Okay, all right, because again, who wants to sleep in a master bedroom with all that traffic noise? I mean, I grew up in a house on Marine Drive out in that neck of the woods, and it was noisy. So my next one is, so the bike lane, are you actually going to denote a specific place for a bike lane as opposed to them making their way along Marine Drive and hoping not to get killed by a car?
All right. Through the mayor to Councillor Cassidy, perhaps I'll start with the last note. We would not be creating a dedicated bike lane. It would be consistent with the Marine Drive. There isn't enough space for it. So I believe there would be painted decals on the side of the road indicating essentially where the bikes would be, but it would not be dedicated. It would be similar to the rest of Marine Drive.
Okay, well, I think it would be very nice if there was a dedicated bike lane because, I mean, everybody has an opinion on whether that area of the road is dangerous, but by and large, they speed along Marine Drive. And if we're going to accept a new build there, then perhaps there should be some concessions to those individuals who want to ride a bicycle. Your development could be the beginning of those concessions, but I think that should be there as well. And what also bothers me is there's no delineation between your property and the sidewalk. And you show young children there, but those children, I'd be, white knuckled the entire time I lived there because those children can make a beeline from Marine Drive. So whether you put a low fence up or a low wall with gates to separate the property from the sidewalk and the children from Marine Drive. And my next point is, are there any elevators in these buildings?
No, we are not proposing elevators.
So are you proposing to put the infrastructure for elevators in place?
We did look at whether there could be an appropriate space allocation for it, but we couldn't without making the units quite oversized, which then starts to compromise their the price point that we're able to sell them at. So these are, instead we focused on avoiding having too many flights of stairs. Sometimes townhomes can become almost 4 or 5-story homes, depending on how they're laid out. So we focused on mitigating the height to 3 stories, which it is, more than maybe a typical 2-story home. But that was our priority.
Okay, well, you could modify the design and whether 1 or 2 units, whether it's the 2 outside units, because one thing we are hearing repeatedly from the public is, well, one thing is we want our public to have the opportunity to be able to downsize in place, to live in place throughout their lifespan. And so many people will say, the reason I'm able to continue to live in this community is because my unit, my townhouse, either had the infrastructure in place for me to pay to put an elevator in, or they had elevators. And also, when you're looking at being an inclusive community, an elevator, it would be for people who have physical challenges. Otherwise, we're selling to essentially 1 unit of the community, which are those who potentially wish to get their foot in the door, or those who have no physical or age challenges. And this is a community where we have people with physical and age challenges, and this project hasn't addressed them. So that's that one. And I know because projects we have approved in the past, I always call it the Geller project, but what's it called, Jim? Hollyburn Mews? So the Hollyburn Mews, when it, I'm sorry, Mr. Bailey, when the Hollyburn Mews was built, I believe that was 2011, 2013, there was the infrastructure in place for elevators. Also, when we approved Stone Throw, which is on Gordon at 21st, there was the infrastructure in place for elevators. And in both locations, the people who ultimately came to occupy those sites did put in elevators. And that was one of the reasons the project was so attractive to them. So I think if you're building something which has stairs, you also have to afford people the opportunity, regardless of age or physical ability, to be able to live there. So that I consider to be a major limitation. So, so I've addressed the sidewalks, the buses, you've addressed where the construction trucks are going to be. And all the bedrooms are going to be back in front. I've addressed the fact that there's no barrier to stop these children running off and killing themselves. And I've addressed the bike lane, which you, if you ask me, when you're bringing a project to this community, then you have to be upping the game. So we want bike lanes, and this is a good start in that neck of the woods for yourself to bring such in. And I guess that's, and again, I sound like I'm negative Nelly, and that isn't the case, because I am with these minor negatives. I am in favor of the project. I do think we need housing diversity within this community, but we have to appeal to all elements within this community. Thank you.
Thank you, members of council. I would just ask everyone to remember we're asking questions, and we'll have an opportunity to debate it ourselves once the public hearing is closed. Are there other members of council who have questions? Councillor Gambiel.
Actually, I think all my questions at this point have been answered, except that I would like to have this new and improved slide deck to look at afterwards, if that's okay, through staff. Is that okay?
Yes, certainly. I can't see why not. Yes.
That possible?
I do believe it's in the agenda package.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, this brand new one? Oh, jeez.
I
All
believe
right.
so, yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clearly,
Just
I
before
didn't see
we
the
go
diff-
to the public, just one question, and it's a very minor point, but would these units, homes, be individually addressed? I noticed in your package that there's like 01 or 06. Tiny point, but I think having an individual address is more appropriate.
Sager, we definitely agree. We've chatted about with staff a bit about going back and forth about what the fire department would prefer. Generally, that's what we would default to in terms of numbering, but if that option is on the table, which will confirm a building permit, I absolutely agree. I think it's very much nicer to have just a numbered street address.
Thanks very much. If there are no further questions from members of council, I'm going to thank both of you, and we'll now ask members of the public who wish to address council and share their thoughts.
Thank you, Mayor Sager. We've
Thank
got
you very much.
about a dozen names in the speakers list. The first is Jose Martinez, followed by Allison Keller.
Thank you.
Jose Martinez, you have 5 minutes.
Thanks for joining us, sir.
Well, good evening, Major and Council. My name is Jose Carlos Hernandez Martinez, and I'm a member of this community. I have been living in Horseshoe Bay for the last year. I rent a house there where I live with my wife, my 2 kids. As a member of this community and as someone with an architectural background, I would like to, I come here to support this type of project. I currently rent a house there, and I believe that there is, as you have all been mentioning, a missing middle and opportunities for someone with my type of needs too, that wants to increase or move to a little bit more spacious place. And this project, I believe it lands in that position. I'm a very active member of the community center, so I go every week there to the Glen Eagles Community Center, and I'm very familiarized with the site. I can definitely visualize this lifestyle happening there with my kids. And I really like the idea of this type of projects coming up, as long as they are coherent with the atmosphere, with the landscape, and with the earthy tones that I think the architectural firm did a great job working on that. I would like to say that the new houses that are being built are sometimes not considering this situation that we run into without bringing like new projects that are appealing to our needs. And this one with the back, how's it called? The patios on the back. I feel these are great things to see for someone with like our needs. And yeah, well, I think this is pretty much what I would like to say as a member of this community, and well, hopefully to see more of these projects come up.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. And the next speaker is
Allison Keller, followed by Corinne Van Doorn.
Ms. Keller. Thanks for joining us this evening.
My pleasure, and good evening, your worship and members of council, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name, as you know, is Allison Keller. I have lived in Horseshoe Bay in the Glen Eagles neighborhood for 24 years, and I have worked in the real estate development sector across British Columbia, Alberta, and Ontario for nearly 15. I'm speaking tonight both as a longtime resident who cares deeply about this community and as someone who understands how important it is for neighborhoods to evolve in thoughtful and appropriate ways. Glen Eagles is a special place. Many of us moved here decades ago. We raised families here, we built friendships here, and now many of those same residents are entering a new stage of life. I have many neighbors and friends who are now empty nesters. They love this community and want to stay here, close to their support networks, daily routines, and the natural surroundings that make Glen Eagles unique. But right now, they have very few options. They are often living in homes that are larger than they need. Not because they want to, but because there are very limited options within Glen Eagles to downsize. This proposal helps address that need in a very modest and appropriate way. It introduces a small number of ground-oriented townhomes, which could feature economical acorn lifts. And it will allow longtime residents to remain in the community as their housing needs evolve. This supports aging in place, which is increasingly important in established neighborhoods like ours. It also supports the broader health of the community. When longtime residents have the opportunity to downsize locally, their detached homes return to their market. These homes are ideal for younger families, allowing the neighborhood to renew itself across generations. This is what thoughtful, gentle evolution looks like. It allows the community to adapt without losing the qualities that make it special. From a land use perspective, this proposal represents a modest and efficient use of underutilized land. It introduces a form of housing that is currently very limited in Glen Eagles, while remaining respectful of the surrounding neighborhood context. I would also like to speak briefly about the proponent. Ledcor has a long and well-established track record, including here in West Vancouver. Their experience delivering complex projects, including Grosvenor Ambleside, demonstrates their ability to manage construction along primary corridors and reasonably and responsibly rather within established communities. This matters because the success of a project depends not just on design, but also on the experience and integrity of the team delivering it. In summary, this is a modest proposal that provides meaningful community benefit. It allows residents to remain in the neighborhood they love, supports housing mobility across generations, and reflects the type of careful, context-sensitive growth that helps communities remain strong and resilient over time. For these reasons, I respectfully encourage Council to support and approve this proposal. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Keller. Thank you.
The next speaker is Corinne Van Doorn, followed by Alexis Chicoine.
Van Doorn, Ms. Van Doorn, thanks for joining us.
Mayor and Council. My name is Corinne Van Doorn. I've lived in the West Vancouver neighborhood for 25 plus years, and I've worked in this neighborhood as well. I can see that there's been a lot of thought and planning gone into this project. I just want to raise a few ideas about this project. The proposed project is on a lot that is very steep and it has many mature trees. Basically, it's a densely forested area. I'm wondering if this is a good spot in West Vancouver to plan for this high density. Looking at the lots, it's very steep. There will be a lot of blasting needed to get everything leveled, and let alone the cutting down of all these mature trees. I know there's some trees that stay, but if you look at the lots, there are many trees that will go. Then there's all the traffic dealing with the site preparation and the building that has to go over Marine Drive, which is just a 2-lane road, or on Eagle Ridge Drive, which is a narrow, windy road up a mountain. The impact for preparation and for construction will be huge on those using these roads regularly. The amount of carbon released by the removal of the trees, the blasting, and all the traffic, let alone the building of the houses, will be enormous. This will increase the footprint of these houses enormously. When similar houses are built on a redeveloped lot where there is not, where there are not these very mature trees, then the carbon footprint will be much smaller. So I urge Council to think about these issues and to look carefully if developing this beautiful development that is very nicely done, is this the right spot to do this? These mature trees will never come back. When they're cut down, that's it. This carbon footprint idea is very important to how we build our communities. And we have to live with this forever and ever. And as we know, climate change is here with us, and our carbon footprint should be small. So I urge Council to think, is this the best place to develop this property. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Alexis Chicoine, followed by Daniel Allen.
Ms. Chicoine, nice to see you this evening. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for this opportunity to be here tonight. My name is Alexis Chicoine, and I live here in West Vancouver. I'm here today to express my support for this housing project. I believe it offers several important benefits to our community. It aligns council and provincial policy, as explained through the presentation tonight. The project directly aligns with the OCP and council strategic plan by adding these ground-oriented homes located near transit and local amenities. It diversifies the housing supply in an area traditionally of single-family homes that was specifically laid out by our OCP. It also supports, for better or for worse, the Bill 44 of provincial housing requirements and our 2025 recent Regional Housing Needs Report, providing much-needed missing middle housing. It's also responding to community needs. The feedback collected over time consistently shows a strong demand for housing options for downsizers and young families who want to stay in or return to West Vancouver. The project supports livability features like this outdoor living area and actually secure bike storage, which are features that residents have repeatedly requested and they value. The sustainability features and infrastructure improvements are excellent. As a multifamily development, it has to reach higher GHG or greenhouse gas emissions and energy efficiency than a single family home. It also delivers key frontage improvements, which once developed and yes, living through the hell of construction, will be new sidewalks and a formalized bus stop. And yes, there will be some tree removal, but the proposal includes planting more new trees than the number that were taken out. And while this proposal moves West Vancouver closer to its missing middle goals, there are still some important considerations that should guide future applications towards more accessible, affordable, and character appealing outcomes. First, from the affordability standpoint, the homes in the proposal are large. There are 3 bedrooms, roughly, as we said, around 1,900 square feet. And larger homes inevitably come with a higher construction and ownership cost, meaning they will primarily serve relatively a narrow segment of our market, established families and downsizers with significant equity. For many younger households or single seniors, smaller formats would offer a more attainable price point simply because reducing square footage is an effective affordability lever when subsidies are not provided. And so on that point, with future developments, I really do hope to see a mix of styles and sizes in homes within a single project. And that could include non-market ownership or rental opportunities. And second, in terms of accessibility, that's already come up tonight, while this project is ground-oriented, each unit has several interior levels and does not incorporate universal design or aging in place features. Ground-oriented housing is more effective when it includes fewer internal stairs, wider doorways, futurely adaptable bathrooms, level entries. The front door does not need steps in most cases. Please and thank you. Let's think about visibility as well, but space for future lifts, as also noted tonight. Missing middle housing options can come in a number of designs other than traditional townhomes. For example, stacked options, where each unit is a single level living, and the ground floors units could be focused with 0 entry steps or 0 entries and other adaptive design features. And these designs significantly improve the ability for seniors, people to age in place, and people with disabilities for the long term in our neighborhoods. And finally, I actually wrote a bunch of notes on the design, but I'm going to retract those because I really appreciate the way they presented their design options tonight. The initial package I looked at, I felt that the project was a little too flat-faced, but the varying roof lines, the facade modifications, material variations that they've shown tonight really highlight some interesting features in the project. So overall, the project offers important missing middle benefits, and I recommend that for the council to move forward with it. Future developments, though, could expand the housing mix further. with more diverse unit sizes, more accessible layouts, with more varied architectural expression. This helps the district meet the needs of broader cross-selection of residents while still maintaining neighborhood character and development feasibility. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
The next speaker on the list is Daniel Allen, followed by Peter Schofield.
Mr. Allen, thanks for joining us this evening.
My name is Daniel Allen. I live at 6030 Eagle Ridge Drive. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here to express my strong opposition to the proposed development at 6085 and 6093 Marine Drive and the related proposed rezoning for the following reasons. The proposed development does not fit the character of Eagle Ridge or Glen Eagle community area. And current zoning, which is consistent with the character of the community, would not permit such a development. For the presentation, I heard references to this building, which is an interesting reference because it really describes the higher density of this. There's no other development with this density in the community. I heard a comment about Horseshoe Bay. Horseshoe Bay is not Glen Eagles. If you live in Horseshoe Bay and want this development, well then take it there. I'm not opposed to any development. I'm just opposed to this level of density. For the presentation, there have been comments about people providing positive comments. If they are providing positive comments, I think they should disclose if they have any personal or professional connection to the applicant or its associate. This project or development seems to be part of a push to develop marginal land in this area. And it all has higher density as a common factor. This will erode our quiet enjoyment of our property and the future value of our property. How is 6 times the current density permitted soft development? Why 12 condos versus 2 single-family dwellings or 2 duplexes? There's no justification for this density. I moved out to this area to get away from this density, and now you're proposing to bring the density that I moved away from closer to me. I never saw anything before about this proposed development, which says a lot. Why am I only just hearing about this now for this public hearing? Lots of comments about it being positive, but like, you can say it's positive, but why do I feel it's so negative? My family has never been engaged, and so I question whether this is truly an honest process. I would argue that the proposed rezoning is not for the development of the immediate community. It's basically a density for the financial benefit of the applicant. Comments about right homes in the right place. Well, the right homes in this place will be single family homes or a duplex, not a high density building, 6 times the permitted density currently. Who profits from this development? It's not the local people. And I haven't seen any explanation as to why 12. That's like a really high density relative to all the surrounding properties in this area. I live on Eagle Ridge. Traffic has been a major problem on Eagle Ridge for years. This will just exacerbate traffic on Eagle Ridge. I heard a reference to 1 vehicle every 10 minutes. Really? So when people are going to work in the morning, it's going to be 1 vehicle every 10 minutes. I don't think so. For a 3-bedroom home, we could maybe expect 2-3 people. So is that 24 or 36 people all wanting to go to work at the same time, further exacerbating traffic on Eagle Ridge? Eagle Ridge has not been properly controlled in terms of the traffic by the District of West Vancouver. You've got speed sensors at 50 kilometers per hour, not the actual 30 kilometer per hour limit. You've got bullards at the corner of Falcon and Eagle Ridge have been sheared off because of traffic going too fast. You've got speed humps that are too shallow. You've had 2 pedestrian crossing signs that have been knocked down twice because of high speed on Eagle Ridge. And you want to bring a development of 6 times the current permitted density. So I'm a little bit annoyed because this is only coming to my attention now. How is that possible if there was such a great process?
Thank you, Mr. Allen. I do feel that that question needs to be answered, and I'm going to ask Ms. McGuire if you could just set out the public process that's led up to tonight, because as I understand it, it's been ongoing for over a year. So I'm amazed. I happen to live in this neighborhood as well, and certainly.
Yeah, and I'm not opposed to any development. I'm just opposed to this level of density, and why 12? And I would also point out this is part of a number of projects. There was another one right beside it with even higher density, another one. So is this like the floodgate that's going to open up a whole bunch of development that's going to further increase the density, unlike any of the other dwellings in this area?
That's your time, sir.
Thanks.
Ms. McGuire, I think it's important just to set out how the public process was established for this.
Yeah, so the development procedures bylaw sets out all the requirements for a rezoning application in terms of notification, site signage, public information meetings, and with notification for any of the meetings that took place or that the applicant hosted, there would have been the requirement to do 100 meters notification around the site as well as an ad in the newspaper. And that was also done for tonight's public hearing as well.
Can you just refresh us as to when this process started for this applicant though?
The first neighborhood meeting that happened was in 2024. And so that notification process would have happened for that meeting. And then the more recent meeting that the applicant hosted was in May of last year.
And these were held at the Glen Eagles Clubhouse?
I'd have to double check that detail. I didn't go to them myself, my colleague did, but so the applicant could probably speak to that at the school, apparently.
They were held at the school, okay. Thank you. Thank you. The next speaker, please.
The next speaker on the list is Peter Schofield, followed by Vern Glover.
Mr. Schofield, nice to see you this evening.
See you here and council.
Bet you like the discussion on the bike lane.
You knew it was coming. Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Peter Schofield, and I have been a resident of West Vancouver for almost 40 years. I'm generally very supportive of this project. I like the design, the features that were shown this evening, and particularly I like the attention that's been given to minimizing greenhouse gas emissions. And that comes when you have it helps when you have a multifamily dwelling, which I consider to be a multifamily dwelling, but also meeting the step 4 of the zero carbon step code. So those are good points. What brought my attention to this particular issue that I'm going to address is one of the renderings that I saw in the plan that was up on the website. And that showed a cyclist on Marine Drive. And that really put up a red flag to me. And I thought, gee, there's got to be something better than having cyclists on Marine Drive going by this development. And this evening I have heard from the proponents. Oh, actually, speaking of renderings, I did notice on the rendering that was shown this evening was a similar picture, but there was no cyclist. I'm not sure what happened to the cyclist, but I did hear from the developers, and I was pleased to hear that there was some consideration being given to upgrading the cycle facilities on Marine Drive. I was also very pleased to hear Councillor Cassidy express her support for a separate bike lane in that area. So what I'm going to do is just give you a few reasons why I think there should be a separated bike lane at this particular location. First of all, in our community over the last few years, with the various multi-family dwellings being built, there have been separated bike lanes, not separated bike lanes, I'll put bike lanes. And one of those goes back to the Cressy development on 23rd and Bellevue, was the first to put in a bike lane. It wasn't a separated bike lane, but following that in the Gateway development down in Park Royal, there's a separated bike lane there leading up to Taylor Way. And on the other side of that intersection, at the Executive on the Park development, there's also a separated bike lane leading up, coming westward towards the Taylor Way. And then just a bit further to the east, just west of Capilano Road, on the development there that is the Park West Lions development, there is a separated bike lane there as well. So it seems to me that there has been a trend over these recent years that when multifamily dwellings are built, accompanying those developments are separated bike lanes, particularly in areas where there is designated bike routes. Now, as I mentioned already, what's particularly impressive to me about those last three developments is that the bike lane is separated. And this, of course, provided much more higher level of safety for both cyclists, motorists, and pedestrians. So I'm going to give you a couple of reasons why, or actually give you some, have a look at some of the beneficiaries of separated bike lanes at this particular location. First of all, are those westbound road cyclists, and I'm often one of those. And when I'm riding on that particular route westward, and there's a lot of cars, I look for opportunities to pull off the side of the road into a driveway. And having a separated bike lane there would provide that opportunity for those westbound road cyclists. Now, westbound road motorists have also been one of those. And like many of you, I expect, I found it rather frustrating sometime on a weekend morning heading out to Horseshoe Bay and having been delayed by having these cyclists and wondering how I was going to get around them. But having this bike lane in front of that development would provide an opportunity, or would offer an opportunity to these cyclists to move off to the side and allow the traffic to carry through unimpeded. Now, the resident homeowners are going to benefit greatly from this, because those that have bicycles or other mobile devices will be able to come out to a separated bike lane and move westward towards the Glen Eagles Community Center and eventually down to the village in Horseshoe Bay by going almost immediately outside the development, getting up onto the Spirit Trail and going to the community center and continuing without any automobile traffic at all in their way, all the way down to the Horseshoe Bay Village.
That's your time, sir.
The other owners of this development, the towns will also benefit, both of them would, the owners and the people would benefit by the saleability, increased saleability of this.
Mr.
So
Schofield,
finally,
I'm going to
I'd
have
like
to, I know you'll know to wind up.
Yes, I'm winding up.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Thank
I just
you.
wanted to mention, I just want to mention finally that it would be an advantage to the district by having this particular feature there, which would increase the amount of active infrastructure facilities in the area and improve the chances of meeting their greenhouse gas targets. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Schofield. I believe Councillor Watt might have a question.
Thank you. Yeah. Due to your experience, obviously extensive experience in the bike community, I've also contemplated the idea of a separated bike lane there, but I wanted to ask you in particular, where you've got the driveway with so many vehicles coming out, is there the potential that a separated lane would give a false sense of security to the cyclists, or how would that be navigated? Because I think, actually, I'll just let you respond.
Sure. No, that's a very good
You know
question.
a lot more than I do about
And
this.
that's navigated by painting a green painted lane across the driveway. And that gives indication to the cyclists themselves that they're safe to proceed, and also for motorists that are coming and going, they see right away. I think it's pretty well recognized now that in our community, even in our community, on that section of Green Drive, you know, between 26th and 31st, there are those sections of green painted, green paint in the bike lane where there are driveways or where there's an intersection.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schofield. Sorry, Councillor Cassidy has a question.
I have a question for you. The proposed bus lay-by, which I'm opposed to the site, as I've said before, and would you think that would be an excellent opportunity for a lay-by for a cyclist? Because I mean, going up and around that bend as you're coming up from Thunderbird Marina, I mean, it is possible a death trap almost. I will be that blunt. So to give them an but there's no place to pull over to allow the traffic to go by. So if you took away the bus bay, would that be a good opportunity for lay-by for the cyclists?
Well, I think if you took away that bus by at that proposed location, it would facilitate the installation of a separated bike lane to go along there. So I think that would be I liked your suggestion actually of moving that bus stop further away from the middle of that development.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schofield.
Okay,
And the next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Vern Glover, followed by Dana Anthony Mulhern.
Thank you. Mr. Glover, is it? Thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you. Not very used to this, so I just say mayor and council.
Anything that you're comfortable with,
Okay.
sir.
I live in West Van, have been here for 35 plus years. I'm a retired builder slash developer. Have built in West Van, North Van, Langley, Surrey, all over the map, including Seattle. What I notice on this particular development, I have no problem with higher densification in this municipality. In fact, encourage it. However, what I do not personally wish to see is the visual presentation that has been done here. And I was looking at another project on 4300 block on Marine Drive. And what I'm scared of is seeing this precedent being set for West Vancouver, where you've got these little mini developments happening all over the place. And visually, I don't want to see that. I don't see why these sort of developments cannot have much more individuality of design on each of the units, even though they are multiple. There's no reason whatsoever. I have successfully done that personally as a builder myself in other municipalities. And this is, when I saw this, I have no objection to the overall planning of it, but to the visual streetscape, I have strenuous objections and would make a submission pursuant to this meeting in that regard. So I would just leave that for comments.
Thank you, Mr. Glover. Thank you for your thoughts. And the next speaker, please.
Dana Anthony Mulhern.
Thank you.
We've got a few more names on the list of people attending via Zoom. So we'll do with the chamber speakers first. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this evening. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I'm speaking myself. It's Dana Mulhern.
Yes.
I live in West Vancouver, and I'm speaking on behalf of Positive Voices West Vancouver. And actually, this is the first time we've really said, here we are. Well, we've been here, but here we are. I'm going to make it very short because our vision, of course, is like yours, for a reasoned, inclusive, and sustainable community. We're all working towards that. We, in fact, focus on housing, transportation, climate, and community. And we provide information, discussions, and events to help the community understand the change that is going through all of us, all this community, and how we're going to adjust to that. So with that point, we definitely support this project. There is a very big lack of missing middle. This is a small, West Vancouver needs many projects all throughout it that with changes in missing middle, affordable and supported housing. And we look forward to this going forward. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you. And now we have, how many people are joining us?
I think we just have two left of a list of four originally to have dropped off. So the first name on this list is Ali Pasha Kaminapur. I'll promote in a moment, followed by Eleanor Johnson. And that would be the end of the names on our list.
Thank you.
I'll just promote the first speaker. Kaminapur, you should be able to turn on your microphone and your webcam. You have 5 minutes to address council.
Is it Ms. Lepore?
It's Ali
No.
Kaminapur.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Kamipur. Thank you. Now we see you.
And can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, council, for giving me the opportunity to express my perspective on this development. So I'm 47 years old. I moved to West Vancouver when I was 3 years old. So I know and love the district very much. I've lived in different areas in West Vancouver over that time. And I've seen it evolve. And of course, it's evolved in many ways fantastically. But one thing one of the reasons why I strongly oppose this development is because I think one of the things that we as a society have difficulty placing a value on is the value of nature. And one of the first reasons why I'm against this development is because while it sits on a site that's, I understand, owned by TELUS, there's really a small building on it, almost not noticeable. It's mostly green space with many mature trees. And that's something that is increasingly diminishing in West Vancouver. And this area, the different neighborhoods, whether it's called Glen Eagles or Eagle Ridge, it has the word eagle in it for a reason, because there's many eagles that live around here. And I see them with my own eyes fighting over increasingly scarce nesting sites. And I find that I have to argue on their behalf because they don't have that opportunity. And I wonder, with respect to this development, why does it have to be on this largely what I perceive as greenfield site? There are plenty of, let's say, brownfield sites, already existing plots of land that have been developed with fewer trees or what have you, that could be redeveloped into, again, this missing middle, higher density housing. So that would be the first point that I'm strongly against this development. The second is essentially its effect on the character of the area. While the presentation was impressive, it didn't convince me, mainly because I view the design as being very much out of the character of the area, whether you're talking about many of the traditional homes in the area or even some of the modern but very discreet homes. This development to me sticks out as almost being alien. It just doesn't fit in at all. And again, I appreciate that we need higher density. I am all for that for the various obvious reasons. But if we're going to do that, and it has to be this site, then it should be something that blends in naturally with the area. And I don't think it does. Thirdly, already this area is contending with a lot of roadworks in terms of waterworks. First and foremost, it was in the Eagle Ridge Drive. Now there's one on Marine Drive. I myself, living in the Glen Eagles area, I have had to sometimes detour 20 minutes just to take my kids to school because a road is closed or it's backed up with traffic. And that's a real problem for parents in the future, so in the mornings when they're rushing to get their kids to school. Adding another 20 minutes to their schedules certainly puts stress on the household. And I believe this is going to have an adverse effect on the residents in the area as a consequence. And then lastly, I am a little bit perplexed by this development in terms of its proposition that it's for the missing middle, for those who need, let's say, want to downsize or require something that is a little bit more affordable. Based upon the research that I've done, I don't know if this is going to be necessarily more affordable. I think residents will already have to have significant equity to be able to buy into there. So it's not very convincing for me on those grounds. In addition to that, after conducting some research, I've discovered that there already are a lot of unsold, quote unquote, missing middle type homes in the Horseshoe Bay area. So while I appreciate that there is some demand for this missing middle housing, I'm not convinced that it requires 12 units to be built in that small plot of land, impacting the environment. There are a lot of already other options out there that also happen to be even less expensive that are sitting on the market unsold. So as a consequence of those four things, I really have to object to this development because I think it's going to cause irreparable harm to the area. Things that cannot be reversed. If you cut down all those trees and build on this, what looks like to me a greenfield plot of land, how are we going to build that back for nature elsewhere? I don't see that happening. So, I would really encourage council to reflect on that and recognize that there are a lot of homeowners that probably didn't register their dissatisfaction with this, but are very dissatisfied.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for joining us. And the next speaker, please.
Thank you. One more speaker, Eleanor Johnson. Just give me a quick second.
Miss
here.
Johnson, are you there?
She is online. I'll have to promote
I see.
her first. That's underway now. try one more time. Eleanor Johnson, if you're there, you can please accept my prompt to be a panelist. There we go. You should be able to turn on your microphone and your camera.
Ms. Johnson, are you there? So
Eleanor Johnson is showing as a panelist, perhaps hasn't had a chance to turn on her microphone or camera yet.
Ms. Johnson, I'm going to ask if you're listening or watching, if you could turn on your camera and your microphone, please.
Hello?
There we are.
I apologize. I don't have a webcam.
That's okay, Ms. Johnson. We can hear you. So please go ahead.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone, members of council. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak tonight. My name is Eleanor Milsom Johnson, and I'm a longtime West Vancouver resident. I've lived here for nearly 3 decades and grew up on the North Shore, so this community has always been home to me. I'm here this evening to express my support for the proposed townhouse development. Like many people, I choose to live in West Vancouver because of the quality of life that it offers. I can walk to shops, enjoy our incredible natural surroundings, feel safe in my neighborhood, and stay close to friends. It's no surprise to me that West Vancouver was recently recognized by the Globe and Mail as one of the most livable communities in the country, and I think that's something we can all be proud of. At the same time, we know that our housing options don't work for everyone. There is a real gap when it comes to affordability and variety. Too often, the choices are limited to older apartment buildings or single family homes with very little in between. Housing that fits into that middle range, I believe, is badly needed for younger residents who want to stay in the community and for older residents who want to downsize without leaving it. I currently live in an apartment myself, and I know many seniors who remain in large family homes simply because they just have no suitable alternatives nearby. Developments like this one help address that gap. They allow West Vancouver to grow in a way that is thoughtful and respectful without dramatically altering the feel of our neighborhoods. This proposal adds to the community rather than changing it. Well-designed, modest townhouse projects are a sensible way to support people at different stages of life while preserving what makes West Vancouver special. I encourage council to support this proposal and continue to take a careful, balanced approach to expanding housing choice in our community. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Before we proceed, I would like to ask if there is anyone else here this evening that wishes to address council on this public hearing. Yes, there is, and that we have 2 more people. Don, do you want to? Nice to see you this evening.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Nice to see you. And thanks very much, Council. I did write a letter to everybody today, and most of my concerns in that letter have been addressed, but there's one in particular that has not really even been discussed, and that's the safety of the intersection of Eagle Ridge and Marine Drive and the crosswalk there. I think it would, as it stands right now, would be not suitable to have that development there with additional children. So I think that the developer should contribute to improving the safety of that intersection and the crosswalk. In particular, either improving the sight line or having appropriate lights. Because I have myself walking the dog, I've almost been hit in that area by a car, which actually could have resulted in a big accident because they went in the other lane, okay, rather than stopping at the crosswalk, okay. Also, a couple times turning left off of Eagle Ridge onto Marine Drive, there's not enough sight line and the speed that vehicles and even bicycles sometimes are doing 50 kilometers an hour there. You know, I did write many years ago to previous council about this issue, and they put the speed limit as 30 kilometers an hour. So that was what they did. And it did not solve any problems at all, except perhaps their perceived liability at the time. Anyways, I would think that you should consider that, as well as perhaps maybe some more improvements to the Seaview Walk Park that the developer should contribute to. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
I'm sorry, for the record of the hearing, sir, your name, I didn't catch that.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's Donovan Davidson,
Don
Glen
Davidson.
Eagles Drive.
Thank you.
Sorry, sometimes we get very familiar and we're on a first name basis.
That's right. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And I recognize a gentleman, I believe it is in the back. Sir, did you wish to add a comment? Please, of course. Is there anyone else who wishes to address council? Okay, we've got 3 more. Thank you.
Hi, thanks. My name is David Van de Sand, and I live very close to the development. And in principle, I think, first of all, thank you, Mayor and council members. I've only come to speak here probably 3 times in the 35 years or so I've lived here. And this isn't the biggest issue, but it's important, I think. From my perspective. So what I've noticed is that the current parking lot for the Seaview Trail is often full. And this hasn't been really addressed so far in the conversations tonight. And one thing I was thinking about is the possibility of expanding the parking lot and then have the development go further towards Vancouver, so that they could maybe buy the house further towards Vancouver. So shift the whole thing. And then they could actually build as many townhouses. Maybe they could even be able to build more. But right now, the parking, I've noticed, and I've never parked there except during snowstorms when I can't get up my driveway. But currently, a lot of the people park on my street, Eagle Ridge Place. And I've noticed that more and more cars are parking there. Partly, maybe it's because they have to pay for parking and they're not aware that you can get a voucher as a resident, I believe. So that's the thing that I would say is that, you know, like, I think when we're developing these things, we should look at, you know, the long haul, not 5 years, not, you know, but learn like 10, 20, 30 years out the road. And a lot of people say, well, okay, but we should all be out of cars, but that's not really practical for a mother with 3 or 4 kids and, you know, dogs and strollers and all that stuff. And so that was the thing that I would say is, in principle, I think that we do need more densification. In principle, I think that the way that they've done it looks good. I don't have a huge issue with bike lanes. I think that, you know, like I've driven a bike since I was a little kid, you know, and I'm still here, knock on wood. And honestly, I think that they could have better signage for bicyclists to go on the Seaview Trail. Now, the dog walkers will have a little bird about this, but you know, that trail is much safer than going along. Like, I never drive down by Marine Drive around that. I think it's called Suicide Corner. It's just too, you know, I want to be around here for a few more years. So I think that would be a good solution, is to have some better signage to get onto the Seaview, because a lot of bikers don't even know about that. Maybe even widen the trail a little bit, you know, that might be a possibility. But I think, I don't think that the parking, I think, is very limited there. And it's a beautiful trail, and I think it's a great asset for the community. I mean, thank goodness it was saved many, many years ago, about 25 years ago, which is probably the last time I talked here. And yeah, so thank you for your time. And I'll let go with that. Thank you.
Yeah, it was 1993 that we saved it back then.
There you go.
Thank you.
A few years ago.
A few years ago.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. The gentleman at the very back, please, sir. And I'm just recognizing in the order in which I saw the hands go up.
I had just a quick question directed through you, Mr. Mayor, to the applicant. We keep talking about middle market housing. I would be interested in what exactly that is in today's market.
Fair enough. What we'll do.
Oh, so I'm sorry. My name's Kim McGinnis, and
Thanks,
I live
Mr.
on
McGinnis.
6786 Marine Drive.
Thank you, Mr. McGinnis.
I apologize.
So if it's just that question, I'll ask the applicant to come up at the end and answer that, if that's okay.
That's perfect.
Thank you. And now, yes, the next person, I think the lady. Oh, you already spoken once though, haven't you? Okay, so you can have a second, you can have a follow-up. I'm going to call on Mr. Jatinder Sidhu. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you. My name is Jatinder Sidhu, and I live in Dunderave. Lived here for 8 years or so, but I've been visiting for 35 years. I like to slip that in case somebody's one-upping me on their credibility around here. Yeah, this has been interesting. First comment, really want to encourage council to consider moving public hearing times back. 5 o'clock on a Monday is the kind of time that a lot of people, a lot of the serious, professional, intelligent, educated, high-achieving residents of West Van may well be thinking, well, it's kind of time to go home, but I've still got a bunch of things I want to do. 5 o'clock is tricky. I was able to listen to most of the hearing so far on my way down from Squamish, but lots of people won't have that ability. So you want to include people who are working and those who are not working, maybe free. Do consider moving the time back if you would.
Do you think the 6 or 7 o'clock time?
I think 7 would be far preferable. Just moving on to the role of council in our local government system. You demonstrate some leadership. You're responsible for governance. You're responsible for policy, and looking at the strategy, which was agreed shortly after the election in 24. Strategic goal number 1 is expand a diverse housing supply. So I'm encouraged that you're doing the work. You've approved some projects, because we know the context is that West Van has not properly really planned and approved the kind of housing of a variety of forms and sizes for a variety of people at different stations in their life, from first-time owners perhaps, or renters, to people who are downsizing at the other end of their lives. Expanding a diverse housing supply is critical. Now, housing, we're in a housing crisis, whether you know it or not. Housing supply is constricted. Now, it is more complicated. This is Vancouver, after all, has had prodigious amounts of housing units constructed in the last 30, 40 years, but it is more complicated than simply supply, but there are some things that are fairly simple. If you constrict supply, you drive prices up. So I do think you really need to have that at the forefront of your minds at all times. We're in a peculiar political moment with the provincial housing targets, and the many critics on different sides of the political argument are concerned about how the province is approached that. But you know, I would also urge everybody to think about you know, what you can do as a council, as a group of leaders to really enhance the supply of affordable housing. And yes, this is not that, but in the round, there's this very significant decision made last week in the budget where the government has all but scrapped the community housing fund, which will really affect affordable supportive housing. And West Van, you know, it should be reiterated time and time again. It may look from a distance as this bunch of rich people, but we have a wide variety of income levels and there's a lot of hidden poverty. So do please keep those things in mind. Just very briefly, I want to talk about cyclist safety, pedestrian safety, traffic. You don't make a neighborhood walkable by constantly avoiding doing anything that encourages people to walk or cycle or, you know, 15-minute walk to the school. Yeah, you don't walk your kids to the school unless you do things like build sidewalks, unless you do something to address the speeds at which people travel. There are many very smart mechanisms in urban design to turn our roads into livable, walkable streets.
That's your time,
So
sir.
I really encourage you to go down that road rather than worrying about cyclists when it does strike me that some of the people who have expressed concerns about cyclist safety are not cyclists themselves. Just stand on Marine Drive, as I do, and look at the number of people who cycle here. Destination.
You, I appreciate that.
Cyclists,
I do
thousands.
See, I do see two members of council with, but I don't know, is this a question, yours for staff? Is yours a question for Mr. Sadhu?
To comment. Hi, thank you for your comments. I just wanted to point out with respects to your comments on the fact that we need to build a more diverse housing supply. And this came up earlier today in Horseshoe Bay alone, which everybody in this room knows I live there. On the small block behind me, 18 units were approved for development approximately 2 years ago. The lots are up for sale again, and those didn't even have to come before council. And we had another proposal for, I believe, 27 units, townhomes and condos. And again, the developer has pulled back. So while it may appear that we're not approving, we've approved everything. And there are projects that just in the current economic climate aren't getting built. So I just wanted to add that to the commentary.
Thank you, Mr. Sadhu. Ms. Keller, I believe you're going to speak again.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I just want to clarify because it was implied this evening that with my professional background in real estate development, that perhaps I'm working for the proponent. That is not the case. We're not talking about seniors housing tonight. I don't work for Ledcor. And I also want to make another point too for the record that whether you live in Glen Eagles or whether you live in Horseshoe Bay, you're still part of the community. And I did live in Glen Eagles for 20 years. And so, and for Horseshoe Bay. So I just wanted those 2 points of clarification tonight because it does impact me professionally. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Keller. But that suggestion was not coming from any member of council. So thank you. Could I ask the applicant, we did have the one question and Councillor Gambioli, is your question, could it be for the applicant or for staff? Okay. Yeah. Can you address the question from a member of the audience or member of the public this evening?
Yes, absolutely. So the question was regarding the nature of how this is missing middle housing. That is a tricky one, as I said earlier. So we're obviously still early days in terms of being able to provide specific pricing references. This project will likely be sold from finished product, and even the building permit stage itself. So we're ages away from selling. But the idea that what the guidelines that will dictate what the pricing of these homes are is that they will need to be less than single family homes in the area, or they'll simply never sell. So that would be, set the ceiling of pricing, and they would be priced strategically below that in order to sell. But I think the other consideration important in thinking about missing middle and housing diversity is it's not simply a question of price point. That's obviously a major one, but there's also a lifestyle factor. There are lots of folks who would want to live in this neighborhood who don't simply have either the time or the physical ability to maintain a single family home. And there are certain people who would love to be in this community, this family-oriented place, have a bit more space, who would like the idea of having a strata and strata managed, more of a turnkey solution. And that is certainly something not available here now. So there are more qualitative aspects to missing middle that I think keep in mind when discussing that.
Thanks very much. Councillor Cassidy, please.
Yes, so interesting enough, not interestingly enough, but brought to my attention by individuals who've spoken this evening. Somehow or other, I was thinking to the west and not so much to the east with these children that I have been referring to, and the division between the property and the sidewalk, so that children don't run out on Marine Drive to kill themselves. So if I were wanting to move into this neighborhood, and it is a fabulous neighborhood, obviously I may well want to be a parent taking my children to school. So A, I want that wall. And B, where is your sidewalk going? Is it going to the west or is it going to the east?
I think it's really more north-south, to be honest.
Yes, through the mayor to Councillor Cassidy. So the sidewalk is north-south oriented here.
All right.
So we would be upgrading the sidewalk all the way along the frontage. So from end to end of the property. And I believe the north end would terminate at the access point to the trailhead parking lot. And
All
just
right.
to the note on the enclosure of the outdoor spaces, I do think it's worth noting that the living area of these homes is on the second level that has both balconies facing the west side and large private patios, which will be the main outdoor living space for these homes that are facing the forest and facing the trail. Those would be completely fenced, enclosed in terms of where families would be spending their days at home in those spaces.
Okay, you have a very high opinion of children and their ability to open a front door. Yes, to take their eyes off them and you don't know where they are. So again, I would really like some form of separation. And also an individual spoke up and said, why do we have to have this number of units? And earlier I addressed the fact that there's no infrastructure for elevators. I don't actually ask for an elevator, just the infrastructure. And you essentially said that there wasn't going to be sufficient room as far as the design was concerned. So my point to you is, why do we have to have so many units? You could make the end units on these developments larger, so you also have fewer units, but you give the opportunity for people who wish to age in place or people who have physical challenges to have the opportunity to live in this community. They can make their way over by wheelchair or such aspects over to the community center and to the many programs at that community center, and also enjoy the socialization aspect of the orchard. So, and to the other gentleman who spoke and basically said that these units looked rather unattractive. I think when I spoke previously, I also made the North Shore News, but I won't use the same term that I used for the North Shore News. I don't like how they look from the front. They look institutional.
Councillor Cassidy, I'm sorry, but we have to focus on asking questions.
That was a question. So make the units smaller, make the two at the end larger, fewer units, and put a wall up.
But we can have that discussion when it comes back to council for our opportunity.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Gambioli, and you have a question for staff, please.
I do. I have two questions actually, but hopefully they can be answered quickly and efficiently so we can wrap up. So I just was grasped by one of the concerns that a speaker who also wrote, and another one who wrote to us about the safety concerns around Eagle Ridge Drive and whatnot. So besides the sidewalk, are there any other, it looks from your report like staff feel that in an engineering and planning sense, there don't need to be other safety issues dealt with
Yeah.
including that intersection?
Sorry, through the mayor to Councillor Gambioli. So maybe I could just also add to the bike lane commentary, because I think it kind of dovetails with the answer to the question just generally around safety on Marine Drive. When engineering staff looked at that, they didn't opt for requiring this development to install a separated bike facility for the roughly 60 meters of frontage that is here for the development site, just given that that would be, you know, a partial installation of a bike facility, and that wasn't really seen as ideal. If you were going to do something like that here, you would really want to do it in a more network kind of capacity. And so I guess just one thing to add to maybe what's already been said is the current design for the frontage works wouldn't preclude us in future from installing a separated or a bike lane facility along Marine Drive. I did get confirmation from engineering staff on that. And that could be something that could be looked at in a kind of more coordinated capacity in future for Marine Drive improvements. And that it's sort of maybe to get back to the specific concern about the intersection that's quite close by. That is also something that it wasn't anticipated that this development would pay for instance, a signalization of that intersection, but that could be looked at in future as an improvement to this corridor for pedestrian safety and for safety in the general area. But I guess it just kind of back to the main point for the development. With the addition of a sidewalk along the frontage of this site and the addition of the accessible bus stop, you know, that is definitely seen as a massive improvement for this portion of Marine Drive. If you've gone to the site, you've seen that basically if you're waiting for a bus, you're standing like on Marine Drive right now, and it's just a pole kind of thing. So, you know, it's kind of, there's this incremental step of what would improve the site currently with the current proposal, but there's also opportunities for looking at Marine Drive in future and for increasing safety through different things that we could do.
Okay, thank you. And so I guess the other question is around CACs. And in the report, it says that, you know, we've looked at that and there really are no CACs. So could you just summarize why there are no CACs? Because it seems at first glance like this is a much larger density. And so how does that math work?
Sure. So we did have a financial consultant look at this, which we do typically for rezoning projects, as I said. So they're hired by staff, paid for by the applicant, standard practice for rezoning applications. Basically, the upshot is that because the development is relatively low density, when you look at the floor area ratio, it's 0.7. With developments of that scale, based on the amount of square footage, you know, compared to the site, what we understand from talking to the financial consultant that we use fairly often is that that level of density really doesn't typically support a cash contribution on top of, you know, maybe offsite improvements that are happening, just due to the costs associated with constructing the project and that sort of relatively low level of density compared to, you know, I might make a comparison to, for instance, missing middle housing projects in Horseshoe Bay, where they're around one level of one floor area ratio or FAR. Those, for instance, are paying an amenity scheme rate for the net increase in floor area associated with them, because they can, at that level of density, afford that contribution to the district. But what we're typically seeing is ones that are coming in around this density, they don't support cash contribution given the costs and the level of density.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. I'll ask again if anyone else is here this evening that wishes to address council on this rezoning application. I'll ask a second, now a third time, and I see no one else. If members of council are satisfied, we've received the input. I'll ask Councillor Lambert to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor Sager. Recommend that all written and oral submissions regarding proposed official community plan bylaw number 4985/2018, amendment bylaw number 5394/2026, and proposed zoning bylaw number 4662/2010, amendment bylaw number 5395/2026, and proposed development permit 25-012 for 6085 and 6093 Marine Drive up to and including the February 23rd, 2026 public hearing be received and that the public hearing be closed.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson.
Second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary, the motion is carried. Thanks very much to everyone who has come on this issue this evening and for all of your thoughts and input. We're now going to call the council meeting to order. Give a moment or two for those who wish to leave. And this item I expect to have back on our agenda for council's deliberation in 2 weeks. Yeah, me too. A lot more people. Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. I'm going to get Councillor Watt back to her seat. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask if you're going to carry on a discussion, if you could do it outside. We do have to carry on with our council meeting now. Okay.
Do you have her for some reason I lost it and it was just validation?
Alice?
No.
Alice, no.
I was just letting her know. We weren't up there discussing.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for your patience. If you were coming for the council meeting that was to start at 6. I will now call the meeting to order. And just as I do that, yeah, well, if we could close the doors, that would be great. As I call the meeting to order, thank you all for your patience if you were coming for the council meeting. I would like to start by just letting members of the public know that today at noon, council started work today at noon. We had a meeting with the Minister of Housing, much anticipated. We had been asking that for that meeting for quite some time, and we did have a meeting today, and we'll provide you with more up. We expect to have some feedback. I know it was a closed meeting, but we voted to tell the public. Didn't we? Yes. Oh, no, we're just only to say we had a meeting with the minister. Right. Anyway, we'll leave it at that for now, and we'll just be optimistic. So I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda. Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you. And I'll recommend that with the amendment as written, that the agenda be approved as amended.
Councillor Cassidy. Question, all in favor? Contrary, carried. Thanks very much. And we have a delegation from Youth Advocates for Global Health today, and we welcome them. Gentlemen, I recognize you, well, one of you who came last week to, well, I think everyone knows why we're wearing pink shirts, don't they? They don't? Well, okay, Councillor Gambioli, would you tell us why we're all wearing pink shirts?
Well, that's not my job. We are wearing, but we are wearing pink shirts today, by the way. Some of us look a little more casual than normal to honor Pink Shirt Day, which is actually Wednesday, but because we have a council meeting today, we're wearing pink today, which is a sign,
Our
rel-
support for the youth.
related to, yes, our support for the anti-bullying
Yeah.
message that has been created for many years now at the end of February. So
Gentlemen, good to see you again, sir.
Good to see you again. Nice to see you.
Could you both introduce yourselves, please?
Absolutely. My name is Jonathan Wang. I'm the founder of the Youth Advocates for Global Health Association, and I'm a grade 12 student at St. Thomas Aquinas Regional Secondary School.
And my name is Matthew Yu. I'm a grade 12 student at Collingwood School, and I'm the co-president of YEGA.
So today we stand before you as local students, but more importantly, we are here as representatives of the future healthcare workforce of British Columbia. YGHA is a youth-led nonprofit dedicated to bridging the gap between global health research and local community action. So while we look at the global health frameworks, we firmly believe that health equity starts at the municipal level, right here in our own backyard. My perspective on this issue is directly shaped by my clinical training. I'm a licensed emergency medical responder here in BC. Currently, I volunteer with St. John Ambulance Division 1307. You may see us at Rogers Arena during concerts or at community events across the North Shore. In that role, I operate at the intersection where public health meets the pavement. I see what happens when our built environment fails our citizens. I treat the heat exhaustion because a public square lacks adequate shade and ventilation. I treat the lacerations and the suspected hip fractures because a walkway was uneven or tree roots lifted a paver or lighting was insufficient. I see the injury after the environment has failed the patient.
Yeah, and my background complements Jonathan's background with some policy analysis. Here at YGHA, we run a lot of webinars. We've done 12 webinars over the past year, with family doctors, with, cardiologists, with medical specialists from, the Central African Republic. We also wrote a book this past year detailing some of the findings from our webinars. And yeah, I'm going to pass it back to Jonathan for now, for the first part of our presentation.
Yeah, so together we are here because we believe clinical care is provincial, but access to care is purely municipal, and that is where you come in. Let's look at the reality of West Vancouver today. Often we hear governments talk about the aging population as if it's a problem coming in the distant future. Mayor and Council, West Vancouver is not preparing for a future demographic wave. The wave is already here. West Vancouver is a demographic outlier. Across Metro Vancouver, roughly 16% of the population is over 65. Right here in West Vancouver, that number is 28%. You're managing one of the grayest municipalities in the country. Now, for a healthy teenager, a cracked sidewalk, a missing curb cut, or a lack of seating is just a minor annoyance. You step over it. But for a senior relying on a walker, a cane, or a wheelchair, that same crack is a fortress wall. It's an environment signal that explicitly tells them, you do not belong here, it is not safe for you here. A blue zone is a demographic region where the built environment naturally and passively extends their life expectancy and independence of its residents. It is a place where the infrastructure actively encourages aging in place. You have invested in active transportation and seawall maintenance. We are asking you to apply a rigorous clinical safety logic to the everyday pedestrian routes. Seniors who feel unsafe are 40% less likely to leave their homes. We need an environment built for walkers and canes just as badly as we need it for cars and bikes. And to achieve that, we're proposing the formal designation of the Marine Drive Longevity Corridor. We want the district to draw a boundary around your commercial access, specifically from Ambleside to Dunderave, and designate it as a gold standard accessible route. This is the flat area where the seawall, transit, commercial amenities, and medical services intersect. Inside this specific zone, infrastructure is prioritized for clinical safety. It means prioritizing ultra-smooth paths of travel, aggressive hazard removal, and pedestrian-scaled lighting that actually illuminates the sidewalk, not just the roadway.
I'll be taking it over for the second part of our presentation, and I don't think this is on the slideshow, but essentially Jonathan and I have done a lot of music concerts over the past year because we're heavily involved in music. And so we've done over 30 community outreach performances across 5 cities. And every time we finish, we always talk to the residents and the seniors to see what sort of issues are facing them. And so we can also create a personal connection. In West Vancouver, we have one of the oldest populations in British Columbia. The median age here is 50. 1950, which is almost a decade older than the regional average. And I think we mentioned this earlier, but now 1 in 3 residents, that's 30%, that are over the age of 65 in West Vancouver, and that number is expected to grow even more. In contrast, the entire Vancouver regional seniors population grew from 12% to only 17% over the same period. And so right now, West Vancouver only provides 2 limited capacity walk-in clinics, the Orca and the Ocean clinics, but they only really treat non-urgent cases. And an aging population means we have more falls, more infections, more medical complications, more urgent medical needs. Now, the solution for most West Vancouver residents, particularly seniors, is to go to urgent and primary care centers, or UPCCs. They provide the same day non-emergency medical care. They're designed to treat issues that are urgent, right? They also have like CT scans, they have ultrasounds, they have x-rays, and they reduce pressure on hospital emergency rooms. Right now, the problem is there's only one UPCC serving the entire North Shore, namely the North Vancouver Centre Urgent and Primary Care Centre. So that means residents from West Vancouver, the city of North Vancouver, the district of North Vancouver, Lions Bay, Bowen Island, that's nearly 200,000 people. They all rely on a single urgent care center in North Vancouver. So you can see why there might be a little bit of a problem there. Wait times are unbearable. It can take 5 to 6 hours just to be seen. So you walk in, you register, you see a nurse, you're given a number, and then you wait hours. And when your turn finally approaches, you get a 15-minute warning. So if you're not back at the clinic within 15 minutes, your spot is canceled. So as a senior, you have 2 choices. You either sit in the waiting room for half a day, or you attempt to travel back to West Vancouver and somehow return through very, very heavy traffic, right, within those 15 minutes time. And Vancouver Coastal Health itself acknowledges that because of high volumes, the North Vancouver UPCC may stop accepting new patients earlier in the day to, safely finishing caring for those who are already waiting. So that means even if you already make the trip, your care is not guaranteed. Now, it's easy to say that North Vancouver is only 10 minutes away, but that assumes that you can drive. That assumes that you have no mobility challenges. That assumes that there's no massive traffic jam every single day from West Vancouver to North Vancouver. That assumes you do not live in Horseshoe Bay. That assumes that you do not rely on HandyDART, which is an alternative to conventional public transit that many seniors rely on. But still, HandyDART has many problems. Many seniors with poor eyesight, with cognitive or physical issues, they have problems applying for these services. And even when they do apply, HandyDART must be booked days in advance and does not guarantee availability due to demand. So seniors are put on a wait list. And that doesn't work if they have urgent care. And long wait times, even at the stops, at the bus stops for HandyDARTs, and frequent delays mean that we increase times. A lot of these seniors are very vulnerable that we talk about. When we go to senior residences and we perform with them, or even at the West Vancouver Community Seniors Activity Center, many of them tell us how they only rely on government pensions. They don't have money to travel, about how, a lot of them use the shower service at the West Vancouver Seniors Activity Center because there's no place for them to go. They're homeless. So what we're proposing is an urgent and primary care center built in West Vancouver. This would, reduce pressure on the North Vancouver UPCC. This would reduce avoidable emergency room visits in Lionsgate Hospital. This would shorten wait times. This would improve early intervention for treatable conditions. And this would also reduce congestion and traffic from West Vancouver to North Vancouver, because there's less people going to the North Vancouver Urgent Care Center and the Lionsgate Hospital. But more importantly, we can also make sure that we prevent, we can provide convenient treatments, and this prevents treatable illnesses from developing into more chronic forms of those illnesses, which means we prevent 911 calls. We reduce costs because it's an easier problem to fix. So, our ask is, we understand that healthcare is a provincial jurisdictions, but municipalities are not powerless. We can, first formally request the Vancouver health area a North Shore urgent care capacity review. Second, we can identify and pre-zone potential sites. Third, commit to fast-track approvals. Fourth, demonstrate demographic need with clear data. And fifth, work with the Youth Advocates for Global Health Association as a formal stakeholder to help provide data and run services for these projects free of cost. Healthcare in Canada, is built on accessibility, reasonable access without barriers. When nearly 200,000 people rely on a single urgent care center, when 1 in 3 residents here are seniors, and when mobility is not even guaranteed, that's when accessibility is jeopardized. And look, our seniors really deserve better, and we deserve better. We think West Vancouver should be proactive, not reactive. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, that was an excellent presentation. Well done. Well done. You'll be happy to know this council is proactive on that subject. We have identified potential locations, and it's very much something we are working on. Be happy to talk to you about that offline. But gentlemen, very well done. Great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for
Could
inviting
I
us.
ask Councillor Cassidy to formally thank our guests?
Yes, thank you very much. Interesting enough, in an election time period about 10 years ago, one of the candidates specifically addressed the need for such and gave various solutions as far as geographic locations that could be applied to for such a site. So yes, it has been uppermost in a lot of people's minds for quite a while. Yeah, thank you. So I would also like to recommend that the delegation from the Youth Advocates for Global Health Association regarding seniors' health accessibility policy for West Vancouver be received for information with thanks. And thank you very much.
Gentlemen, we'll be in touch. Well done.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Call a question. All in favor? Contrary carried. Thank you. And now we'd like to welcome members of our Memorial Library for their annual presentation. Okay, that's going to be a hard act to follow, you two.
Yes, very well done. We'll be as enthusiastic about the library. We as they will. are.
Perfect, yes.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to have a brief presentation here tonight. We're here for a good time, not a long time, as usual. I'm Stephanie Hall. I'm the director of the West Bend Memorial Library. And with me tonight is our former board chair and long-serving board member, Tracy Watchman. So we're thrilled to be here tonight.
Thank you.
Pascal, can you help me locate which one is ours? Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. All right, so last time I was here, we shared about our 2024 user survey findings, how the 1,466 West Vancouver residents took the time to fill out a very long and endless survey about the library, how they use it, and how it impacts their well-being. They also weren't shy about the needs that they have and the things that they'd like us to improve. So we just wanted to note that we took those as actionable takeaways and we're working on them. So one example would be the noise zone plan that we have. And when you come in the library, you'll see designated areas so people will know where they can gather, where they can be more quiet, and so on. Two other important things that came out of that survey were the need for some improvements in our youth area, and we look forward to bringing a plan for that later this year, and the need for a long-term infrastructure community plan that looks at the whole community. Other headline news this year, our mezzanine renovation was delivered in a timely fashion and under budget. It delivered required seismic upgrades, and we thank the council for that. We took the opportunity, when you do seismic upgrades, you have to remove every shelf and all of the carpeting. So we put in the district put in a small amount of furnishings budget to enable us to create some new collaboration areas, providing about 30 new seats of collaborating areas. So we're quite thrilled with that area. It's very flexible. We can open it right up and do some programming in there, all for a very low cost. And when we opened the area, we had in mind youth and teens, as well as other people who like to collaborate. And we kind of hung around to see like who would use it, would the teens find it? And spoiler alert, they found it. So we do have a sustained growth in use by youth, kids and teens. So our program attendance was up 12% last year versus the prior year. And you can see this chart here shows the circulation of physical and electronic materials to youth. So it's certainly more than it was in 2019. And that dip that you see there is obviously COVID. The image there shows another set of kids studying on the ground. And this is another reason why we think that we will need to refresh that youth space and provide some more seating. As you're probably well aware, youth are experiencing more vulnerability, more needs since the pandemic, and research is continuously coming out to talk about how they have these special requirements that we want to serve. 2025 was another year of incredible programming, and the picture that you see here is Douglas Copeland coming out for a free community lecture for our 75th anniversary. And he is a longtime West Van resident and also was present at our 50th anniversary. So we thank him. And I would also like to thank the mayor and Councillor Thompson for being dignitaries in our annual Summer Reading Club medal ceremony. It is mayhem, it is wonderful, and the young readers really appreciate your presence there.
Thank you. It's wonderful, wonderful for us to be able to participate.
Another highlight in 2025 is that Sitzayamat Rebecca Duncan, a knowledge keeper from the Squamish Nation, was presented with a provincial award for her work sharing with us the Squamish language in kits that anyone in the community can borrow with their library card. We are very grateful for her sharing her knowledge with us and the rest of the community. For our 75th anniversary, we gathered community stories of life at the library, how we impact their lives, community photographs. So this is the winning photograph donated by the community called Hounding the Meat Market Door by Tony Austin. I would like to thank—
that door.
You remember that door?
I remember that door.
Yeah, I'd like to thank council and also our sponsors and donors who supported our foundation in a fundraising evening that will support many good programs, and really talked about the story of how getting a library was actually a passionate community movement. It wasn't just easily achieved. And this kind of support helps us continue on, and we are very grateful. And the mayor, in fact, was an invited speaker and helped us with our auction as well. He seems to like auctions. So
Good fun.
we also wanted to thank the park staff for this beautiful floral display that they made at Taylor Way, which really blew us all away and reminded us that it takes a community to make a library. Looking ahead to 2026, we need to refresh our strategic framework. It's been 5 years. We've done a lot, but it's time to look deeper. We've mentioned a new amazing space plan that will address many needs in our youth department, and a long-term infrastructure plan to help us grow along with the community and continue to support people's needs around all parts of the community. Our 2026 business plan is available on our website, and we're happy to talk about all of that, but I know that I'm already 2 minutes over my time. Themes for 2026 for programming: artificial intelligence is obviously important. So talking to people about what that is and actually getting them to get their hands on experience with it. And also a co-program with West Vancouver PD to talk about online safety and scams. And we've already had some members who have been protected from scams by taking this training. So that's nice. So thank you so much for your time. Tried to be brief, and I really appreciate all of the support from council and also staff of the district.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Watson, to you and to all of the volunteers on the board and on the foundation, from all of us on council, our sincere thanks for your dedication to the community. And Ms. Hall, to you and all of your very dedicated staff, we say thank you. I can't imagine there are too many members of council who have questions, because I know everybody is a strong supporter of our Memorial Library. So with that, I will ask Councillor Thompson if you would please make a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. And I, just want to reinforce, as I usually do, how impressed I am with your community outreach, how much response you get from the public, but also how responsive you are to the requests and needs. And it's just amazing to watch it unfold from within our board meetings. So thank you for the presentation. And with that, I'd like to recommend that the West Vancouver Memorial Library annual presentation be received for information with thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Snyder. Thank you. Discussion, question, all in favor, contrary carry. Thanks very much again. We'll go to item number 5. And just before we begin on this item, I would like to be clear about what the purpose of item number 5 is for, because there's been a lot of talk about pay parking in the community, but this is not tonight a discussion about Ambleside Park or any pay parking in the parks. Tonight's item is to consider a district-wide policy that gives a clearer direction for how on-street parking regulations are managed, so expectations throughout the community are consistent for both the staff and the public. Council will receive a report on Ambleside Park fairly shortly in the next couple of months. In the meantime, Council has directed staff to hold a stakeholders meeting, a roundtable, to discuss feedback and to consider what we've already heard and to bring back a report for Council. Council has also directed staff that the current $2.50 an hour rate will stay in place for the rest of the year, and that we will not consider any expansion to the pay parking in parks at this time. So with that note, I'll go to staff for a presentation. And of course, we always remind members of the public that if you're a West Van resident, your parking pass is free. Ms. Willoughby, are you ready to go?
I will find my slide deck here, maybe with Pascal's help.
Pascal's been kept busy and keeping this going tonight.
All right. I think we can see our slide deck. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am here tonight with this report titled On-Street Parking Policy for Areas Adjacent to Pay Parking Zones. The report and presentation respond to Council's direction to prepare and bring forward an on-street parking policy. Enclosed with the report is that proposed on-street parking policy 0222 for Council's consideration. The work is prompted by pay parking in destinations parks, in that it concerns about people parking on street to avoid paying for parking sets the context for this report. So in that sense, this report is related to pay parking, but as the mayor mentioned, it is not about pay parking in parks, and no pay parking decisions are recommended with this agenda item. The proposed policy addresses parking management near parks, trailheads, and other busy areas, and intends to establish clear, equitable framework that can be applied district-wide. So just a quick outline for this presentation here, and I'll just jump right to it. I know you all have had a long day. With an overview of the previous council direction, which has led to the development of this policy. This report specifically responds to direction from the September 15, 2025 and February 24, 2025 council meetings that staff bring forward for council's consideration and on-street parking policy. In addition to developing this policy, staff have, at council's direction, initiated an on-street parking count program that will help measure and monitor parking behavior with a focus on the Ambleside Park area. This count program is covered briefly in the staff report. and will be reviewed in more detail, findings from that count program in more detail in a future report to council. But this data in the future will help inform how the policy is applied. So because it was prompted by the introduction of pay parking in destination parks, the policy has a particular focus on providing clarity for areas near parks where pay parking is in effect. However, if approved, the policy would also provide that framework for district-wide and would serve as a useful tool for staff and the public, regardless whether council directs any further expansion of the district's pay parking program. This slide provides a review at a high level of the intent of the policy. And these aspects of the policy are described in greater detail in the staff report. So I won't go through them now. This slide provides a snapshot of the proposed on-street parking policy scope and goals taken directly from the proposed policy. The goals include maintaining public equitable access to on-street parking, promoting commercial activity, and the intention that this policy complement and support other significant policy and planning documents at the District of West Vancouver. The policy confirms regulatory tools approved for use in the district, which are established in the traffic and parking bylaw. These include time-limited parking. When parking demand is high, time limits can encourage turnover. Another tool is resident exempt permit parking. Time limits encourage visitor turnover, while resident exempt permits can accommodate resident parking in time limited areas where appropriate. And the policy also clarifies where and under what conditions pay parking could be used, but confirms that pay parking would only be used as a tool as directed specifically by council in those areas. The proposed tools and policy reflect the current use of time-limited parking and resident exempt time-limited parking. New and notable, the policy specifies that time-limited resident exempt parking could be used within 400 meters of pay parking zones, which is typically considered walking distance in best practices. The policy also specifies no new resident-only permit parking zones. These are resource intensive to administer and are not aligned with best practices because they prevent public access to on-street parking. The district has been moving away from resident-only zones for some time and towards time-limited parking with resident exemption. There's currently only one resident-only parking zone in the District of West Vancouver, and that's at the end of Eagle Harbor Road for the residents of Eagle Island. So I'll leave you here with a recommendation and the opportunity to ask questions.
Thank you. Members of council have had an opportunity to read this. Are there any questions for staff? Councillor Cassidy, please.
Libby, isn't the area from 18th to 19th on Esquimalt, and I believe it's Gordon, that says resident-only parking?
18th to 19th.
Or 19th to 20th.
On
You know, by
Esquimalt?
Memorial Park, those streets there.
I'll have to double check.
Why check it every day?
No,
I don't actually.
Resident exemption.
It is resident only. Yes.
Resident only? All right, we'll check.
I don't check it every day, but
typic-
reasonably regularly.
Yeah, typically we apply a time limited with a resident exemption, which allows the residents to park longer than the time limit.
Yeah, no, it says resident only.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think Councillor Cassidy, you're correct on that. I know you are.
Mayor Sager, you've only just realized that now?
Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you. I can appreciate all the great work put into this report. My question is why we're bringing it forward now before we've done our comprehensive paid parking plan? It takes me back to the argument that I've been sticking with since we've been introducing paid parking, that I just think it just becomes more and more confusing if we add layers of policy around managing the same type of activity here and there rather than all at once. But I know council directed you to do this, but the timeliness just seems a bit off.
But wouldn't it Just to that point though, wouldn't it help members of the public who will participate in the roundtable to have this
Yeah,
to
fair,
discuss?
fair.
I mean, it can be amended if better ideas come up. but
It's asking us to approve it, so I'm just curious as we're, we've 6 months into a 1-year project with the pay parking in Ambleside, and it just seems to me that this should all be talked about collectively, but just a thought.
Yeah, fair enough. Any thoughts on that, Ms. Willoughby?
Through the mayor to Councillor Thompson, we did have direction from council to try to bring forward this on-street parking policy before the end of 2025, so prior to the most recent direction from council about next steps for the discussion around what the future of pay parking is in the district of West Vancouver. I would agree that this policy, the intent is to clarify existing practice as much as possible, which could be beneficial for informing next steps or any changes to the district's approach moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions from members of council. Are there any speakers that wish to address this issue?
We do have 4 names on the speakers list for this item.
Please.
The first is Kirk Lapointe, followed by Patricia McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Lapointe. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Kirk Lapointe. I'm a West Vancouver resident here to speak about the proposed on-street parking policy. At last, Mayor and Council are aiming to bring structure and clarity to parking management. Changes have been piecemeal, the overall direction opaque. While all these changes occurred, there was no actual policy to create consistency, set expectations, and provide staff with defined criteria. It's been a ready, fire, aim approach to an important element of the community's culture. The issue today is how parking should be managed and on what foundation. At first, it's clear that public engagement to underpin this policy has been inadequate. Parking is not a niche concern. It affects residents, small businesses, coaches driving to fields, seniors visiting the waterfront, and families navigating daily life. Yet the approach has been informational rather than consultative, directing instead of listening. And the document tonight indicates council intends to continue along this line. A policy that governs how public streets are used should rest on meaningful, visible public input. Second, the evidentiary base needs strengthening. A consequence of the moves already to date has been spillover from paid parking areas. The data on behavioral change and impacts is still evolving. Before embedding a framework that enables expanded time limits, permit structures, paid zones, or greater enforcement, council should ensure that the problem is clearly quantified and transparently presented. Policy should follow demonstrated need, not perception. Third, there is an economic dimension. Commercial districts in Ambleside and Dunderave are already adjusting to significant change. Parking policies cannot be divorced from retail vitality. Retail survives on ease. Even small frictions in convenience can have disproportionate effects. If this framework becomes a pathway to broader monetization of curb space, council should say where it is headed with this policy plainly now and assess the trade-offs openly. This is also a question of philosophy. Public streets are shared civic assets. Once a policy normalizes pay mechanisms or expanded restrictions, it tends to be difficult to reverse. That makes the threshold for change high, not low. If the purpose is to repel visitors, say so. But if the purpose is to raise revenue, at the moment it is costing businesses more than is being collected. In general, this approach feels like digging for nickels and dimes in the back of a couch instead of a deeper review of the district's finances. When you paint yourself into a corner, you don't paint your way out. I believe you should be pausing implementation, publish the spillover and occupancy data, commit to measurable review within a defined timeframe. Clarity and structure are good, but legitimacy comes from participation and transparency. Council has an opportunity tonight to strengthen this policy, not just adopt it. Thank you,
Mr. Lapointe. The next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Patricia McLeod, followed by Sue Goddard.
Thank you. Ms. McLeod. Good evening, gentlemen. Study hard.
Good evening. My name is Patricia McLeod. I'm from the West Van Field Hockey Club. I'm on the board at the Field Hockey Club. I'm a longtime West Van player, coach, umpire, and I was chair of the Rutledge Field Project. So I had prepared some comments. Thank you, Mayor, for your clarification earlier. What I was going to say is that there's 35 days until our spring league starts, and we still have no clarity on what's happening with pay parking in June, nor in September, October, November. Now, I understand from your comments that the current rate will continue until the end of the year. Did I hear correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay, so it would be wonderful to have that confirmed in writing in some way, so that we can message our membership appropriately,
It
because
will be recorded in the minutes of this council meeting, and certainly we can provide that in writing to you.
Okay,
There's no issue.
wonderful.
That decision has been made, and it does maintain Ambleside Park as we understand the least expensive park on the North Shore. with pay parking.
Okay, so the next point is that in the presentation, it did reference an update on pay parking for Ambleside Park to come at the end of April. And it is not possible to talk about pay parking at Ambleside Park without including sport user groups.
But I did indicate that the staff will be contacting you. I'm quite confident that you will be one of the groups involved in the roundtable.
Okay, so there's a number of, there are many issues that there has not been an appropriate venue to raise them. So the only way, instead of us hauling ourselves here on Monday and wasting your time, the only way to go through these issues is with a sit-down consultation with engineering to talk about all of the various impacts and going forward, what is the best solution? In case we don't get invited to the roundtable, I'm going to say what we think the best solution is. And that is something that's already been implemented by City of Vancouver in their pilot project at 3 community centers. One of, Hillcrest, Kerrisdale, and so on. And by the way, a sport field is an outdoor community center. It's not a random park where people just come and picnic. It is a place for registered users where usage is programmed by the sport groups in conjunction with parks.
That's your time, then.
So our solution is time for play, 3-hour no charge parking. That's exactly what City of Vancouver has implemented. Thank you.
And you will be invited. I'll just confirm with staff.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sue Goddard. Nice to see you all
to
again.
see
I'm the
you.
president of the West Vancouver Field Hockey Club. I just wanted to bring up a few points coming out of this report, and I know you mentioned that this is different from the Ambleside parking, but I think it's relevant. Section 6.3 refers to public engagement and outreach. I'd like to know how directing staff to only inform can be considered engagement. Engagement requires two-way conversations. I'm flabbergasted that we've had to advocate this hard merely to be involved in a conversation, and I'm appreciative that we get to be involved in the conversation, but it's been a long haul to try to get that time. I've spent the better part of 20 years working in municipal government, and this is not engagement. Point 6.4 talks about other communication, consultation, and research. It states that staff reached out to North Vancouver City and District and the City of Vancouver. None of those municipalities have a similar multi-use space as Ambleside. Furthermore, the sports organizations have provided your staff and council with information from fields from Abbotsford to Whistler, the preponderance of which provide free parking for parents, athletes, volunteers, referees, umpires, etc., all at their sports fields. It just looks like the research could have been a bit more thorough than it might have been. And finally, I appreciate that consultations happen with the BIA, and we've been very engaged with them in conversations, but they don't speak for the sports organizations. As primary users of these spaces, we, in representing thousands of people, I can't believe that we have not been considered as stakeholders, but again, I'm appreciative that we are going to have these conversations going forward. One last point I'd like to make is we are a not-for-profit organization, which I think is the same with a lot of the other sports organizations. We keep our costs low, so it's a low barrier sport. So families from different economic backgrounds can participate. For our U9 and younger parents, so kids coming in programs from the ages of 5 to 9, the cost for them to come to the field and pay for parking for the amount of time that their kids be participating in our spring league program will actually cost more than it's costing them to sign up for the sport over that time. So it's just something I'd like you to consider.
Thanks very much. We do appreciate your input and look forward to hearing the outcome of the roundtables that will be set up. Thank you. And the next speaker.
And the final speaker we have on this item is Nigel Malkin.
Mr. Malkin, nice to see you tonight.
Try not to fall over
Yeah,
on
that-
the
you
wobbly
worried us
chairs
a little
again. I
bit.
know
You
everyone was
worried us.
quite
Don't
concerned I
do
might
that.
do another.
It throws
tumble.
us right off, Mr. Malkin.
So a 16-page report on street parking. I guess we finally have a cart for the horse, or for the business of 1,300 and 1,400 blocks of the business district, it'd be more like a bull to pull it. Of course, this report is to inform and not engage with residents or business. As for the parking policy, why did this report not come out before the pay parking was initiated? And moreover, why was this report done and at what cost? While we're now finally having some consultation with workshops regarding the pay parking. Obviously, council's directions to staff were not thought out before the pay parking was implemented. So quite simply, pay parking needs to go until a proper dialogue and consultation with the businesses and residents is done. Finally, if this is a start to pay parking in the business district, it is a non-starter. Park Royal is only a few blocks away, and with free parking, and you may as well just put nothing but real estate offices and money laundering companies on Marine Drive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malcolm. Thanks for joining us this evening. That's it?
I didn't sign up.
Oh, Ms. O'Brien.
EIA, so thank you for confirming that you're keeping the rate at 250 for the rest of the year. Councillor Thompson made mention of that you're 6 months into a 1-year project. So is this a 1-year pilot project, the
Well,
pay
this is-
parking in Ambleside Park?
I think members of council have always considered this a pilot project.
Okay, I've never heard that in writing or seen it anywhere. So
No.
I've never, that's never been brought up because I keep saying, if it's a pilot project, can we please just pause it then? Because it's not working for our business community. Might be working for the $13,000 you guys got last month, but it's not working for our businesses. I do agree with Councillor Thompson that perhaps this should be paused, the spillover, until we meet again. That's news to me that we're going to meet as a group. I'm assuming the BIA will be included in that. And we might as well just do it all at once, all at the same time. Emily's put a lot of work and her team have put a lot of work into this, and for them to do this now and then have to go back to the drawing board again after we all meet seems like extra work for staff. And the counts that they do have been great and super informative, but the money that it costs to do these parking studies and spillover studies and counts could go to hiring a temporary bylaw officer just for the summer, and you could generate the revenue for tickets instead of doing more studies, since we already know what the outcome is. So,
Mr. Manager, can you give us an update on on that issue?
Thank you. Through the mayor to council, council has approved the hiring of another bylaw officer, but we're waiting for the finalization of the budget to hire that person.
yeah, but if you had a temporary person, you would.
Still has to go through the budget process. Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. Councilor Gambio.
So just a question first to staff. I think there's confusion about what this policy is and what it isn't. So I'd really like staff in sort of 1 or 2 sentences to just explain, if you could, the value of this piece of the puzzle and why, well, we know why it's coming forward now because we asked for it to come forward now, but the fact that it is sort of the first piece in this puzzle that needs to be established, I think could be made more clearly by staff than me, or is that possible?
So Willoughby, is there anything else you'd like to add to your presentation?
I mean,
I think
this
it's,
policy has nothing to do with revenue.
no, this has nothing to do with revenue.
This policy has nothing to do with the pay parking. So I just want to make that, I just want staff to make that absolutely clear. What is this policy? What is the nugget, please?
Sure. And through the mayor to Councillor Gambioli, the slide on the intent of the policy that I didn't review in detail for brevity really does cover the details there. So the goal is to formalize existing practice. So it's clearly available both to staff and members of the public how the district approaches the management of on-street parking in high-use areas. So we've got a clearer path forward should the data indicate there's spillover parking and people are parking adjacent to, or that pay parking in some of these destination parks is affecting resident or commercial areas. And so we're tracking that data, and this policy will specify which tools and where staff will deploy those tools to respond when data suggests we have parking challenges.
I think it's really important for members, council and members of the public to know, as Ms. Willoughby has said, this is really kind of a codification of the way the staff have been implementing parking. And it's a great opportunity for those people in the community that have thoughts to look at the policy. It's easy enough to amend it if there are better ideas. This whole exercise is, the community just tackling what is becoming a regional issue. We're monitoring very closely what's happening in the other two North Shore communities with their pay parking and the impacts their pay parking have on our facilities. It's all a bit meshed together. So we'd encourage everybody to, if you look at the policy and you think there are better ideas, please tell us. Thank you. Is there any other questions? Any other speakers? No. Thank you. Councillor Lambert, please.
Thank you, Mayor Sager. Recommend that the report from the Senior Manager, Engineering Services dated January 26, 2026, titled On-Street Parking Policy for Areas Adjacent to Paid Parking Zones be received for information, and proposed on-street parking policy 0222 be approved.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy, please. Seconded. Discussion. I'll call a question. All in favor? Contrary, the motion is carried. Item number 6, please. The proposed youth activity fund bylaw. Councillor Watt.
Yeah. I'd like to recommend that the proposed Youth Activity Fund bylaw number 3962, 1995, amendment bylaw number 5437, 2026 be adopted.
Thank you. Councillor Snyder, please. Any discussion? Question, all in favor? Contrary, carried. Thank you. Proposed 2026 to 2030 5-year financial plan bylaw. Councillor Gambioli.
Is this going to be okay with staff if I just read it as written?
Yes. You're making the motion.
All of it?
Sure, we have
as-
several different recommendations on the page, but if you'd like to make them all as one motion, I don't see any procedural issue with that, so.
On all these pages
I
is
think
what I
there are
mean?
14 in total, but we could,
Move items 1 through 14 as written.
Okay, well, I will recommend that items 1 through 14 as written be read first, second, and third time.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Councillor Thompson, sorry, Councillor Gambioli, you're still, are you speaking further because your mic's on?
Oh, sorry, no.
Thank you. I'll go to
on.
Councillor Thompson, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that there has been some concern about adopting the 5-year bylaw raised from the public. And I just, as every year has been on council, we've put together a solid one-year plan and project it from there. And things may change and we'll adapt as we move through years. But I have confidence that this 5-year plan is reasonable, and I'm happy to support it.
Thank you. Yes, I think it is important because I saw somewhere someone commented that this is in fact setting a budget rate for next year, which it absolutely is not doing. I suppose it could be seen as the worst case scenario, but it's certainly it doesn't impact what the actual rates will be. Councillor Snyder.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate on that as well, because I've also heard some concerns that people are taking a look at the 5-year plan and accepting the numbers as anticipated tax rates for the next several years, particularly starting in 2027. And I really strongly urge people to accept, at least understand that we are actually taking, and there will be, if I understand correctly, a high-level report from the report done to our municipal manager that should be coming forward at some point. I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, and that we do and are planning on doing what we can to address some of the concerns. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'll ask our finance department, but can we anticipate, or do you believe anticipating seeing some changes by the quarter reporting period on how this, even moving forward, 5-year plan might look?
Through the mayor to Councillor Snyder, I believe that probably mid-year is probably when we would be in a better position to be able to report on some of the efforts we've made in looking at the tax rate for next year.
Thank you. Look forward to that.
Thanks very much. Councillor Watt, please.
Actually, Councillor Snyder just expressed some of my thoughts and concerns, and certainly concerning the quarterly reporting. I do hope that going forward, we do see the numbers sooner. I've heard considerable feedback from the community and also the Finance and Revenue Committee, of which I'm a member. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item number 7 is something kind of fun in the community, proposed uncurated street animation program. Councillor Watt.
Yes, I'm very pleased to recommend that an uncurated street animation busking pilot program for the summer of 2026, as recommended by the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee, be approved, and that the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee report to council on the outcomes of the pilot program in fall 2026.
So there's going to be a bit of music in the streets, maybe. Yeah. Councillor Cassidy. Thank you. Councillor Gambioli, please.
Just a question. I recall that in the report it said that there would not be any spots along Bellevue because of lack of space, or I can't remember the wording. Sorry?
Sorry, Councillor Snyder.
Yeah, perhaps that's right. So anyway, I wondered about that when I read it in the report, because I thought that, I was hoping that part of this program could be related to, attracting people to the business side rather than doing it all in the park, as,
Ms. Niedermeyer, could you join us?
Right, that's who I'm looking for. I'm
That's the
looking,
person
I'm
that's
looking
going-
around and I.
There she
Ms.
is.
Niedermeyer's didn't.
My
see you.
apologies. Through the mayor to Councillor Gambioli, there would be street performers on Marine Drive along Ambleside and Dunderave. Bellevue has a lot of private property, and that's why we are talking about not having it on Bellevue. So a lot of the larger areas where you would find space to perform is actually on private property.
I see. Okay, so we're going to be working with the business community to.
And
figure out the
bylaw.
spots and- Yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
We're giving it a go to see how the community likes it. Councillor Watt.
And thank you so much. And I really enjoyed working with the committee over the course of the last year on seeing this come forward, of course, with Councillor Gambioli. And I'm quite excited by it. And I'm pleased that we took a route that will not cost the taxpayers money. And I do believe that with the rules that you have laid out, that it should be successful. And I just appreciate the work that's gone into this. Looking forward to
you.
more animated streets.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy, please.
So I'm new to the committee, so I missed various steps in this. First of all, I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled. If anybody's ever gone to Dublin, you'll see all the buskers along Grafton Street and how much animation it brings to that area. Of course, I think the pubs might do it too, but I think the musicians mainly. So is there going to be any opportunity to ask the private businesses if they want to put a busker on a rotational basis, maybe one weekend here and another to another location? Are we proceeding with something like that?
Through the mayor to Councillor Cassidy, this is uncurated. So there is not going to be staff resources available to spend a lot of time dealing with the businesses. So the guidelines will be posted on a website, and then we will deal with, staff and bylaw will deal with any complaints from the businesses. If there was a specific request from a business to have their private property open up to that, I think that could be accommodated. But in terms of walking around from business to business where there is private property, I don't know that we have the resources for that this year. I think part of this is to just start small and see how it goes, and then perhaps expand, or I think we'll be doing a lot of receiving information from bylaw and the police and the businesses and the ADBIA and the HBBA to see how things are going.
Okay. Well, so are we going to dictate any particular type of music? I mean, are we going to go from AC/DC to Joni Mitchell? I mean, or what are we talking about here, please?
Again, through the mayor to Councillor Cassidy, it is uncurated.
All right.
So we are not making any choices. The guideline is no amplification.
Okay.
No more than 2 or 3 performers at one time. So we're not going to have loud rock music.
Okay.
That's what we hope. And if there was anything like that, again, bylaw would be exercising their right to ask people to move along.
Well, I'm sure there's lots of young musicians and musicians in general who would love to have a location to expose their music to a wider audience.
Thank you. Councillor Watt, please.
Just put anybody's, is my mic on?
Yep,
Yes.
you're on.
Sorry, just to put anybody's minds at ease, you know, we had a lot of discussion around the table on the Arts Committee, and at certain points we tossed around concerns that there could be musicians that didn't quite fit in. And I think the overwhelming sense amongst the committee members was, if somebody comes out to West Van and their style of music is not appreciated, they're going to go home empty-handed and they will not be back. Well, there you go. That's the hope.
Well, we'll find out. We'll just find out, and I'm quite confident that if it isn't working in the business area, our very fine director of the BIA will let us know. Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Contrary, carried. Thanks very much. Item number 8, proposed short-term rental accommodation enforcement. Councillor Lambert, please.
Can I sort of move these as written?
Certainly.
Is that okay? Okay.
Yes,
So
you're moving the recommendations as written. Councillor Snyder. Is there any discussion? Call the question. Nobody signed up to speak to this. No. Call the question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. Thank you. Item number 9, proposed lower Caulfield Development Procedure Bylaw. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to propose that the Development Procedure Bylaw number 4940, 2017, Amendment Bylaw number 5439, 2026 be read a first, second, and third time.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert.
And I'd like to propose that fees and charges bylaw number 4383, 2025, amendment bylaw number 5440, 2026 be read a first, second, and third time.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Again, no members of the public wishing to speak. Any members of council with questions? I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary carried. Thank you. Proposed miscellaneous bylaw amendments. Councillor Cassidy, please.
Would you like me to read them or just say as
No,
written?
they're lengthy and we can simply do them as written.
Okay, recommended as written. Thank you.
Councillor Watt. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary carried. Thank you. And now we'll go to consent agenda, please. Councillor Snyder.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to recommend that the consent agenda items as written be approved.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. There's no discussion on consent. Nothing's been withdrawn. I'll call a question. All in favor? Contrary carried. Thank you. Under other business, recommendation regarding the Finance and Revenue Advisory Committee, Councillor Watt, please.
Yeah, I'd like to recommend that municipal manager appoint a staff member to be responsible on an annual basis for interacting with BC assessment with particular attention to the district's largest assessments.
Thank you, Councillor Cassidy. Thank you. This is a recommendation coming out of FRAC, which I strongly recommend. Grateful for their input. I'll call a question. All in favor? Contrary carried. Councillor Watt, please.
And I would also like to recommend that the Finance and Revenue Advisory Committee be consulted as early as practical for input and advice on major financial decisions that impact taxes, utilities, and fees.
Thank you, Councillor Cassidy. Thank you. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Contrary carried. Item 15, judicial review of provincial housing legislation. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I'd like to propose the recommendation as written. Just in a brief summary, a judicial review is being recommended for us to join, asking the province to review the due diligence around the housing bills, including 44, 47, 13, 15, and M26. I think since we've been leaders in quite frankly, the province for challenging these bills, this is just a sensible next step to collectively get municipalities together and understand the process that brought them to these decisions. Because as it's moving into our province, you've got more and more municipalities rising up, realizing that what is being built isn't necessarily what is in demand. And we're starting to see more and more empty buildings. There's just a need for clarity around why a one-size-fits-all is being imposed without random. We are, as you know, Mayor Sager mentioned earlier, in dialogue with the province, and we're trying to work through. And it's not that we're trying to be rebellious and push against housing targets and growing our community in a responsible way. We have a wonderful planning committee, and I think we should stick with all the plans we have and we find out a little more about why these bills need to be imposed on us.
Thank you. This is an exploration. There is no, at this point in time, no financial commitment being requested.
No, what it does is it allows us to scope out the situation and see if there's a purview to do this and before there's any more financial commitment.
Thank you.
Or any financial.
I don't think the provincial government really realized how much they were bringing communities together. And I've been very grateful for all of the support we've received at the Metro table over these issues. It's been very, very nice. Councillor Gambioli.
Well, you know, I have some concerns here because there's no background, there's no report from the proponents of this motion, the recommendation. And so I don't feel I've got enough background. I didn't have the opportunity to participate in a conversation that was a Zoom meeting with other municipalities the other day. So, I just feel like this is a bit premature. I don't see this as a sensible next step. I think that a dialogue with the province like we had today is a better way to move forward. And I think this is, quite adversarial posturing. And I do have a concern about our relationship with the province going forward, and I don't want at this critical stage to jeopardize it. So, and I do believe that regardless of whether we're just scoping this out, there will be financial implications for the district and financial commitments if we go, any further. We can't start exploring this without hiring lawyers. So it's an expensive proposition depending on how many municipalities get involved. So I think this is a premature decision, and because it's on the agenda tonight, it's not a notice of motion, so no one in the public is allowed to comment or give us any feedback. So I really think it's premature to make a decision tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Gambiola, and I do want to give you assurance that this, in my view, is only a scoping motion. Absolutely would not support any commitment of funds other than perhaps my own time to discuss it with other mayors around the province, and then report back to you and the public before any steps are taken. So Councillor Thompson, did you, sorry, you did put the motion on. Did you second it, Councillor Nyman? Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. Thanks very much. And on reports, Councillor Cassidy, you've got to always start us off.
Yes, but surprise, surprise, it's not on my favorite subject, which is wastewater. But and this is a runoff of run up to what's been happening. So on Saturday night, I attended at the Legion a presentation from the president of the West Vancouver Historical Society, Stephen Price. They began the evening with a meat draw to raise funds for what I'm going to present to you. And it was a well-attended and successful evening. As many may not know, this year marks a centennial of both the Legion and our cemetery. And the fundraiser was to raise monies for a project to refurbish the war memorial, the war monument at the Capilano View Cemetery. And one of the shall we say, one of the items at this war memorial is a book, a story of the Battle of Palermo. Essentially, because of the weathers, this book is fading away, and the weathering is causing it to do such. And this Battle of Palermo, for those who don't know, was extremely important for Canadians because it marked the successful invasion of Sicily, which was the first major Allied ground assault on European territory. So that began the liberation of Italy. And it was Canadian and British forces which did that liberation. And some 2,300 Canadians were injured, and some 562 Canadians died. So when we go on November the 11th to do our honors for those who fought and for those who fought and died, I think it's singularly important that we continue to recognize such up at our cemetery. So that was what happened on Saturday night. It was a very successful evening. And also to note that the Historical Society is going to be having their AGM on March the 9th at 7 p.m. at St. Anthony's Church, 23rd and Inglewood. On another note, I wanted to mention that I did not participate, but I should have, was the two weed pools taken care of at the Lighthouse group, the Lighthouse Preservation Society, who were out there doing their job. One day it was absolutely pouring rain, and on Saturday, this Saturday, it was absolutely freezing, but I couldn't attend because I had to babysit. Yes, raising our next generation. So, and what is the next one I wanted to bring up? There was one more. Oh yes, that is the, on Wednesday evening, the Old Growth Conservancy Society, as we've all been invited, at Kiwanis Great Hall, which is on 21st. They're going to have their AGM at 7 p.m. and they're going to have a speaker, Dr. Jeff Say, he is going to discuss the values of small protected forests and what is needed to protect them. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Councillor Cassidy. And just briefly, as I know members of council know, and maybe some members of the public, but I have the honor of or pleasure of serving on the Metro Vancouver Governance Committee. And we are looking at the future structure of Metro Vancouver. And I am really pleased with the way it is going, and very pleased that it appears almost unanimous with the other members of the committee, the inequity of the current wastewater treatment for independent sewage districts and the impact there. So while I don't anticipate a change immediately, I do foresee some light at the end of that tunnel. So that's my brief update. A little optimism. Councillor Gambioli.
I almost forgot that Councillor Thompson and I attended the Lunar New Year celebration a while back at Park Royal with all of the Valentines and all of the pink shirt days, and almost forgot. So happy Lunar New Year to everyone who celebrates that. And we had a fun time dotting the eye, which is something I've never done before. We stuck a paintbrush in the eye of the lion dragon thing. Yeah.
It's good fun, isn't it?
It was good fun. It's good fun. Yes.
There you go. And,
Happy Fire Horse Year is what it is this year, right?
Yes. And I thank both of you for attending that. I'm sorry I had to miss it, but it was for a very good cause, as I was able to watch our daughter perform as the lead at the San Jose Opera. Proud dad. Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion to receive those reports? Councillor Snyder, please.
From mayor and councillors be received for information.
Thank you, Councillor Gambioli. Thank you. Question, all in favor? Contrary carried. Are there any members of the public that have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Mayor Sager. Our speakers list does have one name, although I think accidentally written twice, for item 17, which is public questions. Nigel Malkin.
Mr. Malkin, thanks again. Two times tonight. Can I make a comment on that water bottle, Mr. Malkin?
You can make any comment you would like.
Thank you. I'm really glad to see you do that, because I should have mentioned, I also serve on the Metro Water Committee, and we just received a report that talks about the quality of Metro Vancouver's water and how what you're doing, sir, is the right thing to do rather than buying plastic water bottles, because the quality of our water is better. So thanks for doing that.
Supposedly better on the Sunshine Coast, but
No,
it's pretty good.
It's good.
Okay. I put my name down twice because I might go a hair over 3 minutes, but I'm going to try not to. Anyway, the district is yet to hire a bylaw officer, but managed to hire someone for 2 years to study paid parking. This is certainly not what I voted for in the last election. A full-time hire to look into paid parking, but no one has come to ask any of the businesses affected about the implications this has had. For my business, these are the facts. Saturdays are now dead slow until at least noon due to sports teams using the business parking. My January business sales were down 13% year over year. The most affected blocks are 1,300 and 1,400 blocks of Bellevue and Marine Drive, certainly with Bellevue taking more of a hit, I think. But this is taking away whatever profit we would make. Why is your new parking hire not looking for the negative effects of your decision by talking to the actual businesses who have been affected? Why do you choose just Ambleside to start? Well, it's pretty obvious to me, because if all the parks were done, this room would be full of businesses unhappy about it. You're all intelligent elected officials, but let me give you a quick little lesson on running a business. Before there's a penny of profit, we must pay our fixed costs. These are rent, hydro, gas, marketing and utilities, etc. Business licenses as well. Then comes minimum staffing requirement for your operating hours to be paid. So before a single sale is made, there are huge costs. Many businesses run with about a 25% profit margin. So for example, if your fixed costs are $10,000 a month, even with that margin, you need to have revenues of $40,000 to just break even. Great, we haven't lost any money at $40,000. But even with sales of $50,000, the owner may only be making $2,500 a month or minimum wage. Now let's take that 13% away from my business scenario, and $6,500 of sales are gone, leaving $3,500 at 25%, or $875 to live off. This is the winter time and the park is not fully used. Imagine how it will be in the summer when multiples of people are coming down to the beach and they don't want to spend money on paid parking. It's about a 3-minute walk to save $5 charge per hour. Pretty well everyone knows there's next to no bylaw enforcement. So why not park on Marine Drive or Bellevue? For the short walk, it sure looks attractive, allowing a generous 5 minutes to walk both ways, and it's like paying yourself $60 an hour not to pay for parking. Last month, the district collected a little under $13,000 in paid parking revenue. Let's take away the $6,000 for the paid parking expert. That's down to $7,000. Then we can add the cost of the 16-page report we just heard. A couple of $1,000, I would think, easily for that. Can add probably another $1,000 in spillage from the district's costs for accounting and reporting for it all, and it's down to $5,000. So close to my lost profit. Let alone the other businesses that are affected in the area. I'm almost done. Earls is down $250,000 in sales since this has been implemented. Currently, there are a dozen empty stores in Ambleside and Dunderave. How many will it take before you look at cutting your costs like the surviving businesses did during COVID? I, for one, went and looked at every single cost I could cut to keep my business open. This will be my 36th year of self-employment, and paid parking is making it near enough pointless to continue. Please stop this money grab and allow people to enjoy the park, sports team to enjoy the sport, the yacht club to continue, or hire bylaw staff to patrol the business district. For the 9 hours a day, parking restrictions are in place. Thank you very much for your time. I apologize for going over.
No, you're fine.
Thank you.
I'm glad you stayed in this. Mr. Malkin, I think it would be really helpful if you're coordinating with the ADBIA to look at specific examples. I know in front of your business, I think you have a 30-minute parking. No, but I understand, but maybe it will. And one of the thoughts that went through my mind is, what if it was even shorter? What if it was 15 minutes and it was
there's a number of places where there's 15 minutes, number of places, 30-minute parking. I don't expect them to be enforced. What I'm begging for is we just need bylaw enforcement. 2-hour parking on Marine Drive. It's too long for my business, but there's hairdressers where they need an hour. Restaurants need 2. So on the up and down streets, I think it's 15 minutes, 30 minutes on Marine Drive. It's 2 hours in front of my little shop was a spot. But
is it 15?
The bottom line is,
I think it's 30.
I actually have my own sign up.
No, I only think about this because when I was in your establishment picking up my dry cleaning, and one of your nice staff members said to me, look at that person. I know exactly what's going to happen. She's parking there and she's going to go and get her hair done. And 2 hours. I thought it was unbelievable. Thank you, Mr. Malcolm.
There's a lot of stuff that could be taken as a workshop for that. That may be stop with free parking, have a workshop, go and get some bylaw officers. Make everyone so that we are back making money instead of losing.
Thank you, Mr. Malcolm. Councillor Watt.
5 minutes in front of the other dry cleaner at, is it on 16?
I don't know.
I think it's 5 minutes.
No,
Yeah.
but
No,
we
but-
are hiring a bylaw officer. You know, it would be nice if we could just snap our fingers and a bylaw officer would be there, but it's not quite that easy. Last speaker for the evening.
We actually have 2 more names on the list. I
Oh,
apologize.
2 more.
Sandy Lytle, followed by Melinda Slater.
Sorry.
Well, I did offer to give tickets on my spare time. But nobody
Okay,
took
we'll
me up
sign
on it.
you up.
I do support paid parking for a lot of reasons I won't go into tonight. But what I hear is exceptions of special interest groups in field hockey and ADBIA and whoever else, and meetings and consultations and committees. But thousands of people live in the adjacent parking, the adjacent streets, that this will all be affected. And nobody has given us any option to consult or be part of any of these committees or investigations or surveys or studies as to how it's going to affect all of us 24 hours a day. So I would like the council or the staff to give us some respect and ask the local residents, who, by the way, will be voting on October the 17th, what they think and how it's affecting them. And the other thing, I have a quick question. As council certainly knows, Translate takes a 26% bite of any parking fees, which is significant. The monies that are bandied around 15,000 and 200,000 and whatever, is that net or gross?
That's a good question. We'll have to find that answer out for you.
I'm still waiting for you to answer my question on mean and median from a few weeks ago, so I'm not holding my breath on that.
On mean and median?
On tax rates. On the water sewage rates, whether they were going into public taxes and how they were being calculated.
Okay.
And somebody was going to get back to me. So nobody seems to get back to you when you have questions like that.
Well,
So-
no, I will. Okay. We'll
Thank
need
you.
to find that question. I don't honestly recall it. Ms. Slater, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, and I will make this quick, long evening. I just wanted to quickly comment on the that provincial housing legislation, because I truly believe that is about the biggest threat that our community has ever faced. And so I'm really glad to see a bit of progress on that tonight about looking into joining that judicial review. And I would wholeheartedly encourage that, as well as encouraging throwing in financially as well. Heaven knows we spend money on all sorts of things. This is such an existential threat to our community that surely we can chip in a bit of money. But and I think if we encourage other municipalities to jump on this, it will spread the cost as well. And I was just going to also mention Councillor Gambioli. I'm sorry you didn't get a chance to participate in that Zoom meeting the other week. Because I understand it had some really good information, but ADRA did send information on that, including the full outline of the proposed wording of a motion to this mayor and council back in December. So there was lots of time to take a look at that. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks very much, Ms. Slater. That's it? Okay. Hearing no one else, Councillor Watt.
I am absolutely thrilled to recommend that the February 23rd, 2026 regular council meeting be adjourned.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Well, thank you, members of council. That was an 8-hour and 20-minute workday. Thank you very much for your patience. All of us. There's no overtime.